Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode, the same program that we've been doing for the past 3.5 years here on the TNAM radio network here at thenewamericanmedia.com. Welcome everybody. This is the time where we talk about all of the crazy stuff happening in the world of geopolitics and conspiracies. My name's Brian Engelman. I am your host. Thank you so much for listening. What a show we have lined up for you with John B. Wells, formerly of Coast to Coast AM, now of Caravan To Midnight. Yes, it's going to be a blast. We sure hope we don't literally mean that, because ISIS is threatening all over the place. Yeah, what does it mean? Well, we're going to try to break it all down in just a second here, but first, I want to say if you missed our show earlier and you're interested in the NBA or the NFL or all things sports, we do a sports show called The Unhappy Hour. Check out all of our shows, all of our archived content at thenewamericanmedia.com. And at thenewamericanmedia.com in the bottom right is our Facebook and our Twitter feed. Like us and follow us. Follow us on Twitter at American_media_. And please click subscribe to youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. Yeah, it's been a crazy week. Our president has no plan. Have you seen that? Did you see the press conference? Oh my gosh, what a neat suit he was wearing. Wasn't that a neat suit? Wow, what kind of statement was he making with that suit? Are you kidding me? This is really a conversation we're having? While our southern border's wide open, while we have how many problems in this country? Yeah, let's talk about the president's suit. Nah, I'd rather not. I'd rather talk with John B. Wells, and I'd rather take your questions. If you want to send us something, comment on our Facebook page, or send us a direct message, or tag us on Twitter at American_media_, and we'll try to read some of these live on the air while we talk with Mr. Wells, who we're bringing in right now.
John Wells here.
Brian Engelman here. How you doing, sir?
How are you?
I'm living the dream. You're live on Agree to Disagree, and it's a pleasure having you back.
You know, I like the title of your show, Brian, but I've never found that we had to agree to disagree about anything, which I kind of like, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what. I did come up with one. It was sports. One of them was sports. The importance that I pay to it. It's my outlet. It's my soap opera. It's my reality TV. It's my disconnect from the crazy world of geopolitics. And you've abandoned sports a long time ago. That's the one area where our paths diverge in the woods, I suppose.
You know, I'd completely forgotten about that. I guess that's because I'm very fond of you, Brian. I'd completely forgotten about our divergent views on sports.
Hey, you know what? And that's the point. I can talk with a lot of Cleveland Browns fans that are not awake. I can talk to them about sports, and maybe I interject one or two points that might get them thinking, and they'll ask me a question later. Hey, you said something about, you know, this conspiracy thing regarding such and such. You know, in some ways, I think that maybe doing my sports show connects me with an audience that doesn't realize that there's a bunch of important stuff going on they might actually want to pay attention to. Aside from the fact that I played all the sports and I love sports, and, you know, I got the lovable losers, the Indians, Cavs, and Browns on my team. So, you know, one of these years we'll have a championship. But other than that, you know, we do agree a lot, and I want to talk to you about the name of your program. It's not called Agree to Disagree. You have an entire network. It is called Caravan To Midnight, and I want to get an update. I saw your Sizzler reel out there, and I guess let me ask you about your Sizzler reel in a different way. Tell the listeners a little bit about what you've been up to over the past few months, and kind of the things in store for them in the next few months, and how they could get connected with what you're doing over there. Because you left Coast to Coast, you know, earlier in the year, and we've been fans of yours for a couple of years. So, you know, catch everybody up on what you've been up to over there.
Well, thanks very much for the opportunity to do that, Brian. It's unlike anything that I really ever thought I would see in my career, which goes back, you know, over a couple of decades. And so what we've been doing is, I'll tell you, it's a program that it's changed me in a way, simply because instead of one night a week, in being able to, you know, kind of have a fragmented conversation. I did my best with all those commercial breaks, which you have to have when you're on terrestrial radio. I get it. But it tends to force a person to a host of a conversation to, have to interrupt somebody right in the middle of a really good point that they're trying to make, a salient moment in the conversation. So once a week was strong enough, but doing it 4 and sometimes 5, we obligated ourselves to our caravanners to do Monday through Thursday, but occasionally we'll do one on Friday as well. Sometimes we just put in an extra show, and I got to tell you, the information that's coming forward and speaking with all of these people, from Dr. Paul Craig Roberts to Brian Forster and L.A. Marzulli and so many others, and I don't want any of them to feel snubbed because I can't just reel off their names like this. So these great economists and like Joseph Meyer, just about the steadiest guy in the money analysis business I've ever spoken with. It is a real humanitarian experience. And what I mean by that is these people are going out on the clothesline with this information, in my opinion, at some measurable risk to themselves. Not all of them, but many of them. And it has brought an awareness of exactly the state of our perceived reality. Once the perceived reality is bad enough, but when you strip away the veneer and you really look at the true reality, it's as I like to say, enough to keep you walking on the side of your head every day of your life, all day long. So what we've been doing is just first and foremost is we want to deliver a quality program to the audience, and the audience is what supports us, enables us to do this. Without them, we will go away. And it would have been easier to just take the money and just be quiet and just keep it in the groove that the corporate-minded folks wanted it to be in. It was a dream come true to go to work on Coast to Coast. It was an absolute dream. I was a fan for, the better part of 20 years before. But, all right, 10, 15. But but the thing is that it just seemed to me that there were things that were so important to discuss that weren't really being discussed on any mainstream outlets, general terrestrial broadcast radio. I mean, some of the well-known names, Levin here. I mean, even Limbaugh. I can't say that I disagree with what those men are saying, but even they seem to stay in this one little groove. And because of the format that they're having to work with, they really don't get to have the long conversation. And I think that their guests, the few that they interview, it's mostly their opinion, and they'll take some calls. But when you give people an opportunity, people who know what they're talking about, to really say what they got to say it now, or it doesn't get said.
Forever hold your peace.
That's when you start hearing some things that will just borderline freak you out. So we decided, okay, we have to do everything that we can to get the information out to people. It is. And so we got a YouTube channel, and we frequently post 30, 40-minute segments on there, just get people an idea of what we're doing. But if it's a particularly important issue, we'll put the whole show up there. We make sure the caravanners get it first, and 2 or 3 days go by before we put it up, make sure that they get it, and they get it first. That's it. And then we'll put it up there on YouTube and give it to the public. Whomever wants to see it, go there and see it for free. We also offer these programs if your budget's tight, or you really just like 1 or 2 shows, but you really don't want to obligate yourself, even at $15 per month for 3 months, and it's $30 for 6 and $60 for the year. That's cheap show by show. Well, you can buy just one show. They're 99 cents.
Yeah, $60 for the year. That's $5 a month. Everybody's that's the cost of a latte, a pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah, you get 16 shows in a 4-week month for $5, or you can buy them singly for 99 cents. But if that's your thing, we have a seat for you. And now, and I'm actually quite excited about this, we have drawn ourselves into app world. Yes, we are developing the CTM app, which is in the approval process now, and then we'll beta test it. And I've seen this thing, I've got it on my own phone, and the crew has it, and it's a great app. It really is. You can stream or the show which will kind of eat into your data plan a little bit. But and we tell people that it's like it's going to be easier on your data plan if you just download this thing. But if you want to stream it, stream it. Just we trying to be fair and tell you it's going to take some bandwidth to get this streamed to you. Anyway, it's a groovy app. It does everything. It has a lot of features on it. It's very easy to navigate. It's a very cool app. So we're rolling that out for iPhone first. Should be available by the end of September easily. And then we're working on Android also, which want to have that platform covered as well. But more people use iPhone than Android, so we roll that out first.
No,
and that's kind of it, man, for right now.
No, it is very cool because you've been a guest on our program. I don't know what 2 years now, maybe even longer at this point. We've been talking since you first got your Coast gig, whenever the heck that was.
I think it's been closer to 3, really.
Yeah, I just did my sports show with NBA scout Zach Barris, and yeah, he's been on for about 3.5 years. And it's like, God, I blink sometimes, and I turn around and I see all this distance between when I started and where I am now. And it's interesting how you said that the show changes you in a way. And I was wanting to ask you, have you found your filter changing in respect where you jump on and you're a member of a team? Now we're just gonna we're gonna do sports analogies all the time, John. I'm gonna bust you on this.
That's okay, man. I don't dislike sports at all. The only reason I stay away from them is because I become so fanatical. I blow my voice out if the Cowboys are playing in the Super Bowl. I'm just not doing that anymore. I mean, it's harder on me than it is on the players that are out there taking the beating.
Try being a Cleveland sports fan. We yell like nobody's business. No championships in my lifetime in any of the 3 major sports, but I digress. But what I was saying is, like, when you were on Coast, that was you jump in and you're a player on a team. You have a role to play. You don't play all the positions. You're not the head coach. You're brought in to be a wide receiver or to be an offensive tackle. Whatever your position is, you do your job. Now it's different. You are the CEO, the president, the GM. You're the quarterback. You're the defensive captain at middle linebacker. You're playing both sides of the ball. Have you found your filter change and the things that you're willing to say publicly change since you have taken this project on your own versus where you were coming from?
Well, yes. The short answer is yes. There is no filter, really. I like to stay within the realm of civility, but I don't mind talking about subjects that people just they want to stay away from them. They're too controversial. They're afraid of blowback. They're afraid of losing sponsors. Well, I don't want to lose any sponsors either because my sponsors are the caravanners. So I mean that's who supports this whole initiative. The members. You talk about member-supported radio. This is member-supported radio. We don't have any rich uncles. We don't have any government funding and wouldn't take it if it was offered. And I mean that.
Well, because there are strings attached, and we all know that there are strings attached.
Well, I wouldn't take other people's money unless they said it was okay and they offered it. And speaking of which, do you know these people, these caravanners, they are amazing. We have, I don't know how many, I'm not going to say hundreds, but I will say dozens, and that would be accurate. I don't mean 1 or 2 either. I don't even mean 4 or 5. I mean lots of dozens of people who say, here's $160. No, it's not an error. Do not return. The $60 is for my year's membership. Do not return the $100. This is a donation. You're free to use this in any manner that you choose, whether it's to help pay a light bill or to give subscriptions to people who would like to have them but cannot afford them. We like what you're doing and we support you. I mean, man, you can't buy that. You can't rub the genie out of the lamp and get that. Somebody has to find value in what you're doing for that to happen, and they do. And it's like we are as loyal to them as they are to us, and that's really how I look at it. We try real hard. The only filter I have is that, and it's really my nature anyway. It's really not me, because without you, there is no me. So if you give and they give, then there's no taking, and that's exactly the groove that I want to stay in. The caravanners give to us with their support. We give them everything we've got, so nobody takes anything. And with this whole thing in Ferguson, I thought it was ridiculous. absolutely ridiculous. And some of our brothers in the alternative media, I said on the program at least twice, I tend to repeat stuff, make sure everybody gets it, and they're like, John, we get it. You said that before. I'm sure somebody's thinking
hey,
that.
do enough hours of content, you're going to use some of your stories and anecdotes more than once. That's par for the course.
Yeah, that's just kind of what happens. But it's like looting and pillaging is not emblematic of justice. That's emblematic of injustice and savagery. And some of our brothers in the alternative news media, I've said, this is the thing that I've said several times. It's just like the cops. I've told the cops, listen, don't get the idea that I'm bashing cops. Cops commit acts of heroism every day. They really do crawl into a car that's leaking gas, like Dylan did in Crash, where that black woman's about to be set alight. And he was a racist ass to her at the beginning of the picture. But he crawls in there, and that thing's leaking gas. And she's like, don't touch me. He's like, listen, it's cool. And he pulls her out. That's the real thing. That's real humanity. These cops, they do that stuff. But every once in a while, you get some pigs that'll do something like beat Kelly Thomas, that mentally retarded kid, to death out in California. That's just wrong. Well, they were tried for that and beat the rat. That was justice denied. So I tell them, your job is harder than even you think it is, because you guys have to police yourselves. You have to be prepared to be that Serpico who's willing to let somebody try and shoot him in the head because you know your department's dirty and it's wrong, and you didn't sign up for that. And when you took that oath, you meant it. You meant it in your heart, in your gut, in your soul. You meant it. So, and it's the same way with the guys who are putting out information, the guys and girls that are putting out information that potentially could change things. It could drive people to action. So we don't want to encourage anyone to take an unrighteous or unjust or dangerous or reckless action. But what I saw going on in Ferguson was a bunch of people trying to attract viewers. Actually trying to goad the police into roughing up some of their reporters so they could get it on video and make a big deal out of it. Oh, Ferguson is the center of the New World Order. Oh, Ferguson's the center of the police state. Oh, Ferguson's the center of martial law. There's a martial law center set up down there. It's like, what did you expect the cops to do? Just let these idiots burn the whole place down? Of course they're going to show, listen, we got these great big things over here, and we're going to clobber you with them if you don't knock it off. Now, that one idiot that was out there waving his machine gun around going, I'll bleep and kill you and all that, he was just an out-of-control dumbass that, that's the last guy you'd want. And I said this on the show, that's the last guy I'd want in my foxhole because he's liable to shoot the wrong people, just flip out and shoot somebody.
Now, you're talking about
one of those guys.
You're talking about the police officer with the shotgun aiming it at the crowd, right?
No, it was worse than that. It was a guy with an M4, probably semi-automatic, but it might have been a machine gun. He's going, I'll bleeping kill you, and he's looking around like he's panicked, like he just doesn't know where he wants to go. He looked like one of those horses, in a depiction in one of those paintings of a 19th century warfare. As the thing's leaping over a ditch, and his eyes are like bugging out, and he doesn't know where he's going. He just knows he's going. He's just wild with fear and adrenaline. That's where this guy was. You don't need that guy as a cop.
Yeah, that's the last thing.
They relieved him of duty. He can't handle the stress. He's liable to kill the wrong people, if it really gets down to it. So, but the exceptions like that cannot become, to use that word again, emblematic of the whole force. When you see people like, where was it we were watching those not too long ago, where the cops are just beating everybody. They're in their riot gear. And it wasn't in this country, thank God, but, they're just wailing on women, guys, whatever, in the face, on the head, in the back, kicking them and shoving them and all this. I think it might have been Greece.
I was thinking that was my first guess. I would have said Greece when all that stuff hit the fan.
But you see what happens when the crowd goes against them. They run like hell.
Oh, yeah, there's a great graphic that I post at the New American Media on our Facebook and Twitter from time to time. and it says, remember the power you have. And there's like this plank. There's this long wooden board hanging over the edge of a cliff. And the people there with their signs and their support are standing anchoring this thing together while a politician dangles out there over the edge on their podium at their lectern. And a couple people have started to walk away. And you get the point. If you walk in another direction, the politics crash and burn because they're supposed to either support you or they need to crash and burn because that's not the point of a republic. The people are supposed to have the power there.
That's correct. And we would do well to remember this, and I think many of us have forgotten. It is, it's very distressing to me to see these events unfold right before our eyes, and yet I'm not sure if it's the perception or the reality that so many Americans are asleep. I'm not sure as many Americans are asleep as we might think. I think, and I pray, that many, many more of them are awake than we could possibly imagine. Because we're starting to see the sheriff's departments in a couple of places, been a couple of stories in the past two days of sheriffs going, we don't need this stuff. We're going to give this stuff back to the Pentagon.
Yeah, the MRAPs. I mean, they have the vehicles that are patrolling Afghanistan and Iraq being sent here onto our streets. These no-knock raids for low-level criminal offenses. Flashbang grenades and busting babies in the face and permanent damage and killing the wrong people. And it's the militarization of the police. And this is what you and I talked about on Coast after the Kelly Thomas verdict earlier this year. The militarization of the police is a frightening thing. And yes, there were some idiots that were out there in Ferguson that were causing trouble. That was obvious. But on the same token, arresting journalists inside of a McDonald's or whatever that was, you can't be doing that. Rolling in town like you're an invading force in World War II Germany. Like you're rolling in and just, I'm claiming this now. It seemed like a military takeover. And you have the police acting differently than the local law enforcement. And obviously what happened in Ferguson needed some reinforcements, but that shouldn't be the local police force. That should be a National Guard. That should be something separate from your police force. And
I couldn't agree more.
Because it's dangerous. The military sets their sights on enemies, and the police are there to protect and serve. But when the police become militarized, they see everybody as a threat. Everybody's a nail that needs to be hammered down.
Well, Brian, while I agree with you on that, I'm quite a bit older than you are, so I can tell you that it was horrifying when those 4 kids got shot dead up at Kent State, Ohio, back in the late 60s, and the National Guard did it. And there was no call for any of that. And this country came very close to going into revolution then, and it's close to going into revolution now, and these idiots up there know it. All of this stuff now about, conspiracy theorists, you're crazy, the government wouldn't do that. Get this one. Yesterday, I spoke with John F. McManus, and I thought he was, he was an author, and okay, here we go, and there it says, the president of the John Birch Society. And I thought, wow, well, excellent. So he came on the program, and I said, would you, a lot of people think, the John Birchers, those Birchers, they're like the Ku Klux Klan, they're like radical, they're like crazy, they're like Lyndon LaRouche and all these dudes, I said, would you just clear us up on this stuff? And he said, he was very articulate and just excellent, and the long and the short of it is that John Birch was in China. The American volunteer group, the Flying Tigers, Claire Chenault, wanted him to join up. Okay? And as I remember the story, it was like, well, I'd be happy to be your outfit's pastor. And he said, well, I don't need a pastor. I got a pastor. I need a guy like you that gets stuff done, because he had rescued somebody or something happened. Anyway, cut a long story short, and it is a long one. John Birch remained in China because at the end of World War II, this guy Mao Zedong had taken power. They kicked out Chiang Kai-shek, and here came Mao. And they wanted to find out, what's the deal? Who are communists? I mean, are the communists, are they for, they're saying they're communists. Are they for us or are they against us? Well, John Birch was murdered, and that's sent them by Chinese soldiers or operatives. And a Chinese guy that was with him, they thought that he was left for dead as well, but he survived and was able to come back and tell that everybody that no, they're not for us. They're most assuredly against us. Therefore, John Birch became the first fatality of the Cold War. And the John Birch Society is nothing but Constitution-loving, traditional American values-loving, educating people about the way this country is supposed to run. Now, when I was a kid, and I mean a little kid, I would hear every once in a while somebody say, "Oh yeah, they're a Bircher," you know. And it's like, well, what's the deal with the Birches? And my parents were sort of like, yeah. My dad didn't say anything. My mom was like, oh, you know, they're kind of fringe, radical stuff. That's because in those days our parents trusted the government. They trusted the news. They trusted that this country was in good hands. The ship is afloat. There are no nefarious undercurrents of activity going on at all. It's all, we are a free republic. So that's why they rejected the Birchers. And the Birchers the whole time were going, this Federal Reserve System is crazy. We are involving ourselves in all kinds of wars that we have no business doing, starting with the Korean War right after World War II, and then Vietnam was soon to follow and all that. And that's why they were perceived as fringe, because they were already watching the government turn into what we now behold today. In the same way, this police state thing is real. This is not some sort of wild BS biker acid trip dream of, you know, monsters and spookies coming after us. How is it we can sit here and we have no privacy? And I've been saying this for years, Brian, it's just been revealed in the last 2 or 3. I've known this for years, that they can see you through your computer camera. I've known for years that every fax, email, telephone call, cell, landline, whatever, it's all recorded. I've known this for years. People thought I was nuts. They really did. Well, they're finding out now that I wasn't. And that's, okay, there's some validation. Thank you. I knew I wasn't nuts, but I'll sleep better at night knowing that you don't think I'm crazy.
Right.
And it gets worse, brother. Where the hell did ISIS come from? Well, it came from the same place that Lee Harvey Oswald, the assassin of John Kennedy, and Osama bin Laden, the bastard that brought down the Twin Towers. Same place those two came from, the CIA.
Okay,
CIA
hold on.
trained ISIS in Jordan.
Let me pause on ISIS, because this is a mouthful. What we're about to get into, this is a whole separate chapter, and I wanted to add this because I started laughing a second ago. Yeah, I was the crazy guy saying, no, I don't want a camera looking back at me. That's nuts. Oh, nobody can see you. You have to be logged in. Sure you do. And when I went, and I think I was at a Sprint store, and I talked with the guy. He's like, yeah, they can plug this in. They can listen to you. Whenever your phone is on, if your battery is not out of your phone and the backup reserve juice has not been spent, you can be listened to as well as traced with GPS. And I'm looking at my Samsung Galaxy with a little piece of electrical tape covering off my spy camera shooting back at me, and it's on a piece of paper so it can't see underneath or on the other side. I'm looking at my laptop, my Mac over here, and it says Apple Shift 3. It's just my reminder of how to take a screenshot, but it's covering up the spy camera. Yeah, you and me. We've been aware of this stuff for a long time, and I wanted to toss this at you before we moved into ISIS. I just read a book. You might have heard of this author, Dan Brown. He's written a couple of books. Yeah,
maybe so. Not at this moment, Brian. I'll just be honest with you.
Angels and Demons, Da Vinci Code, etc.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Sorry. Yes, I know who you mean.
He It's all right. That wasn't meant to be a gotcha. Gotcha.
No, it's all right,
man.
You can get me on a number of topics. If I don't know, I'll just tell you.
No, but Dan Brown, and I'm a big fan of his work, but I went back to one of his earlier books. It's called Digital Fortress. And I believe, if I looked at it right, because sometimes they reprint, but it looks like this was written in 1999, before he got famous with the Da Vinci Code. And this book, Digital Fortress, is about a virus, about an encryption technique that was being sold on the black market from a former NSA employee who despised that the NSA was violating our Fourth Amendment constitutionally protected rights to privacy, and so it became this cat and mouse game of sabotage and intrigue, and the clock is ticking down on this virus that's going to destroy all of the NSA's data. And it's interesting because 1999, pre-September 11th, who the heck was talking about that stuff? It's a great book if you get the chance, because while it might be 15 years old, it's very relevant today. I just finished it, and I was astonished because you easily read this book and you go, oh, that's Edward Snowden. Oh, that's Snowden, a decade and a half before Snowden. Okay, so other people knew about the NSA, that's standing for No Such Agency. That's only become part of our lexicon, part of the common knowledge experience in 2014. It's very recent, the past few years, where people are aware that we're being spied on. You and me have been hip to this for a while. That Dan Brown book, Digital Fortress, is a great read if you have a second. But I just want to toss that at you because, a lot of us have been awake to this for a while, and that's probably one of the underlying things that have driven us to keep seeking truth, knowing that we're not getting the real story, which leads us back to ISIS.
Well, Ray Bradbury was even closer. Let me tell you, if you want a shock, go back and read Fahrenheit 451. Virtually everything that he wrote, with the exception of the very end of the book, which may yet come to pass, it's all come to pass. This guy was a true visionary, perhaps one of the greatest visionaries ever. And it is positively frightening. And then when you finish reading the book, it'll only take you, if you just are a casual reader, and I'll just knock out a few chapters. It goes by really quick. You can finish it you can do the whole book in an afternoon, or spread it out over 2 nights and just really digest it. And then when you're done, go back and look at the copyright date. Save that for last, and prepare to be freaked out big time.
Yeah, 1984. Go back to the Bible. I mean, go back to lots of works, and we've been warned enough. It's just, there's something about the human condition. We have to screw it up ourselves in order to fix it, it seems like. I don't know if it's just the recurring video game that we're in, this matrix of, we think this is real, but it's really just a simulation. Our avatar's somewhere else, and our soul's getting experiences. I don't know if any of that's true or not, but it doesn't make any sense otherwise. I just feel like I'm a lunatic in normal society, or I'm the one sane person in an insane asylum.
Well, I know what you mean, and I'll toss something that may be slightly, may be viewed as possibly, maybe ever so slightly insane, but ask ourselves a question, and that is, why do the UFO guys always run from us? Unless they come in the middle of the night, and there have been abductions, and there have been implants, and there is a lot of stuff going on, it's well known. It's well known that this has happened. This isn't woo-woo anymore. This is for real. Too many people have seen them. Too many people have seen the craft. Too many people have seen this stuff, and too many of their stories have been verified as being, it's true. It appears, and we don't know what this is. Why do they always run from us? I believe it's because they can't. It is a spiritual situation, I believe. Now, this may strike some people as being, oh, man, what a Neanderthal. What kind of primitive thinking is this? But what if it were true that they really can't defeat us, but they can cause us to defeat each other? That's high-level spiritual warfare, where you don't engage. That's the ultimate psyop, is if you have two enemies out there, but you get them to turn on each other, and you don't have to raise a gun, you don't have to raise a hand, you don't have to raise your voice. You just work it to where they go at each other, like two dogs that normally get along real well. But now the yard man has showed up, and he's on the other side of the fence, and they can see this, and they want to bite him because he's making them mad, he's making them nuts, and they're both barking, and they want to get at him, and they can't, so they turn on each other. That's the ultimate method of waging war. You don't even get dirty. You just watch your enemies destroy each other.
And is that what we were talking about with the CIA and with ISIS then? Because I watched it. Are you familiar with Storm Clouds Gathering?
Yes.
Yeah, because they just put out a video. I watched it today. Interesting to kind of go back through the history of what is IS, ISIL, ISIS, whatever we want to call this thing. I mean, it's CIA. You go back and who puts who in power, and then when they're of no use, then how do you throw them out with the trash? Is it, I feel like the war drums are being beaten again, and I don't want to get duped into another Iraq. Like, I really feel like That's exactly where we're at. They couldn't get Syria with air quote chemical weapons, and now here we are. Was James Foley, was that a legit video? Was that staged? Was that faked? There are so many questions out there. People don't trust a lick of what's coming from our government now because the CIA's been playing these games for so long. We're hip to it.
Well, that's absolutely right. And we know that CIA and what we used to call the mafia would they work together all the time, and for various reasons, including there's no paperwork to fill out. You need a boat, you need a shooter, you need a plane, you need transport, you need a favor, you need something. We'll do you a little favor, you do us a little favor. Because the underworld is the underworld, and a lot of these people bump into each other all the time, So we get all that. But the problem is when they get to where they're sleeping with each other, not only sleeping with each other, but they're taking long, warm showers together into the wee hours of the morning. And that's what we have now. And you got CIA. This is just my opinion. I can't prove it, but this is what I think as an amateur analyst. In other words, I'm not being paid for it. Or maybe I am. Maybe I am. Well, we have subscribers to Caravan, so okay, I'm an analyst. If I were going to just throw out my theory, it would be this. Step one, 14 aircraft disappear about 4 weeks ago from Austrian air traffic radar. 14 over
That's
Austria
right.
and over two other bordering countries for 25 minutes.
Thank you for reminding me of that. That was relevant then, and it's another puzzle piece. It's another dot to connect. Thank you.
Yep, it is. Now, then what happens? Then, somewhere around that time, the Malaysian flight goes down. Then we start hearing about Ebola. Then the big border wave, the big migrant surge. Okay, and then we're talking to people about, and then ISIS. All of this happens all within just like 3-4 weeks. And what I'm thinking is this. These ISIS guys are making something like $80 million a day, selling their oil on the black market for, $50 a barrel. Less, maybe, 30, who knows? So they're well-funded, and they're committed. Who are these guys? Just saw on Fox News, which is like becoming more and more of a joke, although I do think Megan's cute. They tried to tart her up a little bit, and it didn't work, so I think she probably put her foot down and said, I want to go back to looking the way I was before I interviewed Bill Ayers in my goth Nazi suit with my outer space hairdo. But anyway, they say estimated troop strength of ISIS between 10 and 50,000. Oh, really? Well, you've got 40,000 potential soldiers in there to play with. Are you sure we can't narrow it a little more than between 10 and 50,000? Why don't you just say literally leave off the 1,000, just say between 10 and 50,000. So I mean, it's just stupid. So now, what's all over Drudge right now? Feds warn attack on at the southern border imminent. Car bombs, get ready to go.
Hold on. I have this pulled up. And I have the same exact story. Islamic terrorist groups are operating in the Mexican border city of Ciudad Juarez and planning to attack the United States with car bombs or other vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices. High-level federal law enforcement intelligence and other sources have confirmed to Judicial Watch that a warning bulletin for an imminent terrorist attack on the border has been issued. Agents across a number of Homeland Security, Justice, and defense agencies have all been placed on alert and instructed to aggressively work on all possible leads and sources concerning this imminent terrorist threat. Yes.
First question, Brian.
Yes.
Why in the hell would they release a piece of information like that rather than just quietly go down there and clobber it? Why would they release such a thing to the world?
I've thrown my hands up on geopolitics. I don't know why our southern border is wide open, except that they want it open. And why do they want it open? Great question. Do they need another 9/11 to finish us off and take the rest of our civil liberties away? Is that what we're preparing for? And while they were playing daycare on the left hand, the right hand was bringing in the weapons and bringing in the dirty bombs and bringing in the bad guys that are all in 20 different cities. And I don't know, pick some fantastic numerical time of day. Everything's going to go to haywire. Go to hell, and all the power grid's going to go down, and then all the streets are going to be shut down, and then Okay, I can stop now. I think you get the point.
How many countless millions of people have experienced that very scenario you have just described and are wondering, when in the hell is America going to get their little taste of it so they can see what their government has been doing to us for decades? Listen, these people have been running rogue for decades. I talked to Roger Stone the other day, genius writer. You know, he was inside, I don't know, two or three presidential elections.
That's the JFK?
Inside. Huh?
Was he the JFK author?
Yeah. He was the man who killed Kennedy, the case against LBJ, and he's got a new one out now called, it's going to be released on September 9th, which I believe is the 50th anniversary of Nixon resigning, if I have the date right. I think it's coming out September 9th.
Yeah, I've heard him. It's a hell of an interview, and it's very cogent. It's very precise data that he's spewing. You know, you might come to a different conclusion somehow at the end, but he knows his stuff. Absolutely.
You should hear this stuff about Nixon. I'm telling you, it would be worth just getting the one episode if somebody didn't want to commit to joining Caravan even for $15. Come on, $15 really. He explains how all of these guys have known each other for decades. They're all in it. It's one big cabal. Now get this. Let me throw something else into the mix. Yesterday, I was looking at a piece of video. I just followed link after link after link. I don't even know where it showed up. But if you were to, you could probably Google it. I can probably find it. But anyway, a guy in Central America was being interviewed by a very well Spanish-spoken journalist who was asking him, what's the deal with the kids, the children, the immigrant children? It's all being slowed down now. You know, the trains aren't carrying all these kids hanging off the top of the thing. And what's up? And his response was, I think it's because the United States is running it, and there are radio and television commercials now telling people don't do this, don't try to go north, don't try and cross the American border. And he said, no, what's happening now is that the kids that are trying to do it, the police and the military show up and they grab them and they just grab these kids like they're nothing, like they're just, a bag or something. They just throw them into the back of the truck and they're taken off and, beaten poopless and all of this. But the key point is that the United States did run it. This is all just a little bit too coincidental to have been in any way, shape, or form some kind of an accident. Obi-Wan Kenobi says, in my experience, there's no such thing as coincidence. Well, I be John Kenobi, and I say, Obi-Wan, it's all coincidence, babe. It's accidents that don't exist. This is no accident. These are not a bunch of morons. These people know exactly what they're doing. We saw what happened when Bundy bowed up against the BLM and the Fed.
I went down there. I covered it with Blake, and it was intense. It was very intense. Seeing that picture with the militiaman or whoever that guy was up on the overpass with a sniper rifle in between two of the little dividers. It was tense. I couldn't believe it came to that, and somehow we survived a shot being fired, just like in Ferguson, where it didn't go absolutely haywire.
Well, maybe that was the hand of the Lord. You never know. But I'd like to think that it was, but maybe it was just maybe a little bit of common sense prevailed because they realized. See, that's what happens when you bow up to a bully and go, well, all right then, just step right up, tough guy, and let's just go together. Go ahead, show me what you got. And they go, well, oh, you're not so sure now? Then why don't you haul your ASS out of here and don't come back? And that's what they do. So these guys are running out of time to get their agenda put forward. That horrible man, Henry Kissinger, is putting out World Order. His new book, I believe, is coming out on September 9th as well. And this guy is no Boy Scout. These are serious cats. All of them are serious cats. They'll snuff you out at like you would relieve your bladder. They don't care about human life. They are used to routinely expending tens and hundreds of thousands of lives for their financial objective, and that's all it is. It's about control and the money that goes with it, lots and lots of money. The action is the juice for Michael in the old movie Heat, but for these guys, the power is the juice. because with the power, everything else is possible. Like that Russian, this English banker says to him, "You're insane." He goes, "No, I do what I like. The vast sums of money make everything possible." That's how these guys think. We don't think that way, but they do, because they've been in that culture generation after generation, decade after decade. I mean, they are stained with this. They are steeped in this mentality, and they don't care about us.
Just a little, yeah, George Carlin. They don't give a F about us. They don't give an F about. It's a private club, and we're not in it. No, I have.
Well,
this,
that's right.
I have this Kissinger article from Wall Street Journal. Just a little taste to give people an idea of exactly what you're referencing here. One paragraph says, "The clash between the international economy and the political institutions that ostensibly govern it also weakens the sense of common purpose necessary for world order. The economic system has become global, while the political structure of the world remains based on the nation-state. Economic globalization, in its essence, ignores national frontiers. Foreign policy affirms them, even as it seeks to reconcile conflicting national aims or ideals of world order." Oh, we're conspiracy theorists for reading their words and talking about their words. We're crazy, right? Yeah.
They might as well just throw it out there now. This has all been calculated, but they're running out of time, because they really thought everybody was going to roll over for that Bundy Ranch deal, and they didn't. And you know what? Harry Reid was going to make money by doing a deal with the Chinese on a solar farm out there, as you may already know.
Oh yeah, we were trying to
broker the deal. Pelosi's husband.
Oh, because Pelosi's husband. He's come up from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These rats need to be flushed down the gigantic toilet. We need to hit the big chrome handle on all of them. And here's the thing. We can do this, but these guys are running out of time. Now, let's go back to that analyst role I was playing a minute ago, Brian. In my view of the world, 14 aircraft dropping off the scope for 25 minutes, I call that a dry run. Now, let me just ask a question. Let's say that that's not true. Okay, let's not go all alarmist and crazy. I don't want to scare anybody, but I do kind of want to alarm them to the possibility. What do we think would happen to the U.S. economy if we hear a report that an airliner has crashed? Then the next thing we hear about an hour and a half later is it may have been brought down by a terrorist rocket. Now we hear 5 minutes after that another plane has come down. Well, I'll tell you, the first thing that would happen is that your 17,000 plus Dow Jones industrial average would go to about 1,700 if you're lucky, and 170 if you were unlucky that day. The next thing that would happen is TSA and DHS would deploy in force, and there's your martial law. And you ask yourself, why would they do such a thing? To collapse the economy because the dollar isn't collapsing fast enough. Now, Alex Jones comes on and says, the InfoWars store is, I do a pretty good Alex Jones, the InfoWars store is now accepting Bitcoin for purchases at the InfoWars store. Within a couple of days, he had a story on there about, is Bitcoin a conspiracy? When I first heard about Bitcoin, I don't remember if it was a year ago or 2 years ago, I said, well, it seems to me that this is newsworthy. J.P. Morgan Chase, it is reported, is working on their own version of the Bitcoin. This is after I said, it seems to me like a digital currency like that would be the ultimate global currency. And imagine how much easier it would be to steal money. I mean, if you want to steal $50 million, you better bring yourself some help, because that's a lot of bulk. That's a lot of bulk. Now, 50 million in bearer bonds, which means that whoever is carrying them, that's their money. There ain't no name on it. If you're bearing the bonds, they're yours. That's why you can steal bearer bonds, and as long as they don't catch it, they're untraceable, right? Anyway, it is the new global currency. The iris reading technology that we've all been hearing about, guess where it was deployed a year ago? Mexico. Well, guess who's got the first digital currency about to be deployed? Venezuela. they always deploy these new technologies in a foreign country. Always.
That's Mr. Hugo down there, our good buddy.
Yeah, well, he's gone, you know.
Well, but his legacy lives on.
Well, we're not gone. I mean, I think there's a reason that the Bushes and some others have bought vast swaths of property down around Uruguay and Paraguay, and probably some in Bolivia as well, Venezuela, Argentina, stuff like that. Maybe it was Argentina that's going to the. If you got Drudge in front of you, the story's on there. I like Drudge. I think Matt Drudge is a hero of journalism. He put together that fantastic aggregate website that's got stuff from all over the world. There's not enough hours in the day. There's not enough hours in the month to go through even one day's worth of material he's got on there. He's got everybody listed on the lower left, down at the bottom. I've never met him. You know, he doesn't send me any money. I'm not a shill for Matt Drudge. I thought it was an interesting tweet he sent out recently. I think it was a 4-word tweet that said, "Have a backup plan." And that was it. I think Matt is correct.
I think he is too.
I think we're late.
And the Drudge Report has really helped me. You know, if you need a one-stop shop to quickly compare 200 different things. What's that Mitch Hedberg joke? I love rice. I don't know. I'm just going to screw it up. But he says, rice is really great when you're hungry and want 4,000 of something. You know, Drudge is great when you just want to go through 100 or 200 stories really quick. And the one you were talking about right here, off of AP.org, it says Ecuador is planning to create what it calls the world's first digital currency issued by a central bank, which some analysts believe could be a first step toward abandoning the country's existing currency, the U.S. dollar.
Yep, and they're already doing it in Africa, too. They're deploying sub-Saharan Africa. They're deploying these cards that you do absolutely everything with. You don't carry any cash at all. You just carry this card. Yeah, Ecuador. I missed that by a couple of countries, but I'm glad you picked it up.
That's all. Hey, you know what? I'll be the wingman sometimes, and sometimes we got to switch seats. That's how it rolls.
Hey, I got the continent right. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, close enough. The general region. No, that's fine. Yeah, and that's the concern. That's the one world government. That's the one. You cannot exist. You cannot buy or sell unless you get the chip, the mark of the beast, the thing, I don't want digital currency. I've been a bartender my whole life. I like to exchange things without a paper trail. Okay, another Mitch Hedberg joke. I went into a store the other day to get a donut from a donut shop. I handed the guy $1 and he handed me a donut. He gave me a receipt for the donut. I said, "No, man, just give me the donut and keep the money. There is no need to bring ink and paper into this equation." I cannot imagine a scenario where I would have to prove to someone that I purchased a donut. Now, as innocuous as a donut is, the idea of constantly being tracked and traced is beyond creepy.
If you want to see how bad we're being tracked and traced, you need to see this movie if you haven't seen it already. You probably already have. And you can get it on Netflix, where I saw it. It's called Terms and Conditions May Apply. You sit through this thing, and you're going to slap your palm up against your forehead and go, "But it's so much worse than even I thought." Oh yeah, it is. Look, every keystroke, the computing power that's available now to these people is beyond imagination. There was just an article recently, within the last 48 hours, that robots are like a little the range of a butterfly sneeze away from being killer robots and must be stopped now.
Yeah, and I just saw that a new cruise liner, I was actually listening on the radio this morning, and they said that a new cruise liner, they're having robot bartenders now. It's happening. And one of the commentators, one of the hosts on the show said, "No, I don't like robots. I don't trust robots. I've watched the movies. You know what happens. Eventually they get too smart and they turn on us." Terminator, it's and then you go back to Edgar Casey and Atlantis and Lemuria and Egypt, and you just go, have we done this before? Have we crashed and burned through this type of technology before, where we don't value human life and the objects become things that are quasi-human and human become things? And it just seems like we've been here before, like we've done this before, like we should know better, and we're just running headfirst into it without even looking around.
Yeah, it's beyond anything that I ever thought that we would see. I miss my parents every day, but I'm so happy they don't have to see this. I really am. That's a hell of a thing to say, but I'm so happy that they don't have to endure watching everything that they knew that this country was or thought that it was be revealed as just one big stinking pile of greed and worse, avarice, the willingness to screw people over to accumulate things. Greed's bad enough. That just means you want stuff. But avarice, your willingness to throw somebody under the bus to accumulate wealth, that's dangerous. That's ultimate vanity. And that's where we are now. So these guys, you're going to see these attacks. We brought this guy. We went back and forth trying to figure out. I say this guy. I don't say that disrespectfully. He's a man's man.
I don't think this guy is disrespectful. We got a lot of things bouncing around our heads. But go ahead. Who's this guy?
Well, his name's Tosh Plumley, and I was going, okay, CIA contract pilot, knows this, knows that. Yeah, all right, okay, fine. We'll talk to him. So get your microscope out and check it out. So we checked him out as well as we could, and much of what he says we verified as being true, and some of these things he couldn't know unless he was in a position to know. And we know some guys who are in a position to know, and they said, yeah, but that's it. Yeah, he was a contractor. That's it. That's all they'll say. Okay, fine. Well, the moment that I saw that Benghazi thing go down, which I want to say was on Wednesday or Thursday, as soon as I got into the chair on Saturday night, I was like, does this look funny to anybody but me? Because this looks to me like an arms deal that went bad. This looks like payback. And they brought their little flag with them and everything, and the battle went on for 11 hours, and nobody showed up to help them. And then in subsequent shows, it was like, the only reason that the military doesn't show up to rescue a couple of SEALs and an ambassador who is under assault at a CIA annex, which means they took over the building, is what that means. It's not like an extra wing on your house, but it sounds that way to us, a CIA annex. First it was the embassy, and then it was a CIA annex.
I'm glad you made that distinction, because the word annex is a very bizarre word. I don't use that word on a daily basis. Oh, the CIA annex. Oh, it's the wing of the thing. Nope. They took it over. They annexed it.
Yeah, they took it over. It was Crimea. A safe house is what it was. It's a pretty good one, as it turns out.
Yeah, think Russia. Think Crimea. Think Ukraine. We're going to annex this now. We're going to take it.
That's it.
Okay. All right, I follow.
You've got it.
Yay!
So the only reason that they don't show up to save them is because they want them to get whacked. All of them.
Absolutely.
I've heard everything from, they were actually after the SEALs because they've been running around the countryside trying to get the tribes to work with them and work against other tribes, stuff like that. And I thought, bollocks. Nice try, pal, but I'm not buying it. Okay, and I didn't say that to him, of course, but I just let him say his piece, and that was it. And but he wouldn't say it. He wouldn't say it on the program. He just said it to me. And of course, I've slept since then, so I can't even remember who told me that. But anyway.
But the point is, you didn't buy it. You knew it stunk to high hell. By the time you got on coast, you were there.
Plumley says that the rockets, those were Stinger missiles, is what we're talking about. And it was, in my opinion, and always has been, the Stinger missiles what took down SEAL Team 6 after the so-called bin Laden raid, which in my opinion was a complete farce and a lie. And it's just so convenient, Well, let's see. First it was 2 helicopters went in, and then when people figured out, and I'm like, are you telling me that one of the helicopters screwed up? So all the guys that rode in on that one just got on the remaining one, and everybody flew away. Really? Well, why didn't they just take one to begin with if everybody would fit on board the aircraft? Okay, so then it became 3 helicopters. Oh, yeah, there you go. And then they dump the old boy's body into the ocean, give him a proper Muslim burial, no pictures, and then the SEAL team that took him out, they all die by being shot at with what they said was an RPG, a rocket-propelled grenade, the thing that's on the wooden stick. I mean, they were using wooden sticks forever. They're a lot better now than they used to be, trust me, but they don't do the work of a Stinger, and that's what took down that Chinook, in my opinion. Can I prove it? No. Do I think it? Yes. Why? Because I've spent years reading Jane's Defense Weekly and reading narrations for I don't know how many dozens of military companies, from Raytheon and TI to Boeing and Rockwell and Lytton Ingalls Shipbuilding, even some what you would call a not a black ops company, but a black company that made stuff that was specifically for that community, and you would have to sign the paper that you wouldn't talk about it. And I trained myself in those days, where it would take a big shot of sodium pentothal for me to even be able to remember the title of the script. I literally trained myself on these particular things to I couldn't even tell you the title of the script or what the content was, and the thing went on for 2 hours, and I can't remember any of it because I wasn't supposed to remember any of it, because in those days I took it seriously, and I just deleted it from my memory. Maybe somebody could bring it back, but I couldn't, not consciously. And this probably sounds like rubbish and made up, but it's not. It's true. I mean, when I talk to you, and I know this is going to live forever on the internet, I'm not going to put out a bunch of hooey. I mean, I'll tell you the truth, or I won't say anything.
And we have opinions, and we think that we smell a rat, and can we... You know, Ferguson, we don't have the facts. We just don't have the facts. We have a couple ideas of what may or may not have happened. That's it. We don't know yet. You know, we think Benghazi stinks to high hell. You and I have been railing on that as soon as we heard the story. We knew it didn't make sense. Can we prove exactly what happened just yet? No. So it's going to live forever that we had doubts about the air quote official story. I don't think there's any harm at all in questioning an official narrative at all. You know, I'm okay doing that.
I don't know how much trouble that we'll be able to get ourselves in the not-too-distant future just by having a conversation like this.
That's why I got to have them as often as possible, John, because the day that the power snaps off, these are done. I hope you heard it while you had the chance. I hope you told a few friends, and I hope galactically some people want to come down and give me a hand.
You know, tune in. I guess it's turn on, tune in, and beam up while you can, because tomorrow there might not be anything to beam up to. It's just really that way. And to get to the very quick point, Tosh thinks some of those missiles may have made it into the country.
Into this country.
And I think he's right.
United
I think
States.
this whole border wave was orchestrated so that the cartels and the bad boys from a good number of them from the Middle East can get across the border. Because don't look now, folks, but Middle Easterners look just like the traditional appearance of the Mexican, not the descendants of the Castilian Spanish, but the ones that have EZ as a suffix on their names. I mean, they go back, their bloodlines go back to where? Morocco and old Arabia. The garbanzo beans they eat today are the chickpeas that they're eating over there in the Middle East right now. I mean, these people are very closely related, so it does not surprise us. I mean, conversion to Islam in the prisons among Mexican prisoners was a hell of a lot higher than it was converting to Catholicism, I can tell you that, or converting to a Protestant view of Christianity. They're converting to Islam. And now you got these two morons that Americans, I think one of them's from Minnesota.
I think they were both from Minnesota.
He's 20-something years old, and he's a father of 9. And he goes over to fight with ISIS, gets himself killed. How did they find out 2 Americans got killed? Who's over there reporting this stuff? They're killing journalists. They just whacked out that Foley. James Foley, that's his name.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Foley, because I'm having more and more people in my circle, John, asking and saying that video was garbage. It's totally fake. It was staged. It's propaganda. Now, does that mean that he was already dead? Does that mean that they pretended that he was killed? And was the sister a crisis actor? We're seeing all of these conversations now. Have you developed a take on the Foley case specifically? Because that was kind of the one thing where it said, oh, they did that to one of our Americans, let's go get him. And that's what it takes to get, the Pearl Harbor moment of, all right, I've had enough, let's go kill them all. I feel like I'm getting Iraqed into this Syria thing again. I mean, what is your take on the whole Foley thing in general before it connects to ISIS and World War III as we're talking?
I see CIA all over Foley.
In what way?
Every way. His access to being in the stuff, for want of the word that we usually use. The whole presentation, the British Jihadi John rapper guy.
Yeah, really.
Photograph of him, all of that stuff out there on the beautiful plane, perfectly staged photograph, orange jumpsuit. I mean, Jihadi John's looking smart in his black rig with a nice, looks like a Galco shoulder rig.
I mean, they're saying a British rapper. It's like you have Ali G. Borat, the character playing. We really have a British. Okay, so Ali G has just sparked World War III. That's really what just happened. Some goofy British rapper cut off his head, but we didn't get to see it. But
Right.
it totally happened, and it was deplorable, and we have to stop him now. Just like chemical
Yes.
weapons, we have to stop them. You smell
You know,
CIA
Ali G
across the board.
asks, you know, would it help me get into ISIS if I've already beheaded one of me mates? Yeah, maybe. It's all a setup. The whole thing's a setup. I think they open these borders so that they can. I think they're way behind. I think I think they know that they're about to be challenged, and there's a distinct possibility they'll be thrown out on their bums come November.
This being
but I'll tell you, man, I think it's going to be a rough run.
This being
to the November elections, and we may not have any.
This being
Look,
the
I
big
realize
government
what I'm saying
progressives.
here. I mean, Brian, I like you. I'm a grown-up, and you can't just go around saying this stuff unless you really feel deeply. Your convictions are so strong that you feel like you must. Because, brother, the easy thing to do would be just to shut up, do some, nice middle-of-the-road programming that's interesting, and it's got some good woo-woo, and I'd like to get to that. I'd like to get back to discovery and exploration and inspiring things. But I'm telling you, we're getting close to the edge of something. And, people say it's the end of the world or the last days. Well, I don't know if it's the last days or not. They'll certainly do until the last days get here. But even then, it's not the end of the world. It's the end of the world as we know it. And that can be a very, very frightening thing. I don't know if 1,000 years of peace after Christ returns means that there ain't nobody to make any war. That's why there's 1,000 years of peace, because it's going to take 1,000 years to repopulate this rock that we live on.
Interesting
to the point where we
interpretation.
can actually have a decent-sized war. I don't know what it means. It also says that the day of the Lord shall come as a thief in the night. In other words, you don't get to know when it's going to happen. You may think, you have signs, you have portents, you have wars and rumors of wars. Well, nothing new about that. We don't get to know when. But I'll tell you this, and this I feel with the deepest of conviction, and that is, a concentration camp victim said one time, naked people do not resist. When all of your privacy has been stripped away from you, you are naked.
We're morally naked. We're naked in a lot of ways.
Yes, we are.
Big
but I
brother.
think we'll resist. I believe we will resist. But I think to put this thing back into the form of a republic, perhaps I was asking a guy today. Okay, irrespective of who started over there in the Middle East, we got a problem now. What do we do about it now? It doesn't matter. You and I are soldiers. We're out there in the stuff. We've been sent by a guy we don't know to go whack some other guys we don't know, like Donnie Brasco. It ain't nothing like the Army. You know that thing?
Forget about it. Forget about it.
But we're in the stuff right now. What are we going to do? I didn't get an answer. And it could be that the only way to overcome, I don't know. I'm just saying maybe. The only way to overcome these religious differences and all of the other differences that pit people against us in war. Maybe if the United States tears itself apart, bringing itself back into a state of a democratic republic, maybe that's what it's going to take. Maybe we can't say, listen, we're sorry that everything going back to like the battleship Maine was all a fraud. Vietnam was a fraud. We're sorry about napalming your children. We're sorry about drone striking your other children there in the Middle East. We're sorry about Africa. We're sorry about the Middle East. We're sorry about Europe. We're sorry about everything. We're sorry. Sorry's not going to get it. Maybe what we have to do is bleed a little bit. And maybe then if we do, because we go, by God, we're not going to live like this anymore. We run you. You don't run us. Get it? I just hope we got the guts to do it, because I'm telling you, if we don't, this country is done.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, not at all. Because what that reminds me of is a certain speech from a movie I finally watched the other day. I've seen bits and pieces of it, and I think you're onto it. So let's just hear a piece here.
All right.
As soon as the obligatory 15-second thing. I'll take these 15 seconds to remind everybody to go to caravantomidnight.com and check out what John B. Wells has been up to. And you also put your content on YouTube, you were saying. You have certain shows that have been made public, correct?
Yeah, a bunch of them up there, and people will enjoy it. And it don't cost nothing.
There you go. That's a good
so
start.
check it out, and please subscribe. We need your help. We can't stay alive without our blessed caravanners.
Yeah, and you know what? I said the same thing about Coast to Coast. You're a member of that fraternity as well, always will be. And you get that for free. But are you really up for 4 hours at the weirdest times of the night? No, not all the time, and you might have missed something. So you kick in a few bucks once a month, and you have access to 5 years of content, and you scroll around, and you have a good time. So go check out the YouTube channel, and if you like it, subscribe to it. But what you were just saying, John, reminded me of this, and I just want to play it to remind everybody how relevant it is right now.
It's a depression. Unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some people do stats that tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller. All we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster, my TV, and my steel-belted radios. I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I would never leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I don't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crying in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has meaning.
And I could keep playing it there, but you get the point. As you said that,
Yep.
you were channeling Howard Beale from Network. Go watch the movie Network. I finally watched the whole thing in its entirety. And, once again, that movie was made in the 70s. Here we are, 2014, saying the same damn thing about things that are happening, And my dad has told me from time to time, he's like, Brian, when I grew up, it was, everything's going to be nuclear blast, it's going to be Cold War, everything's going to be duck and cover with a nuclear bomb, and the world's going to implode. And he's like, here I am, how many decades later, and it didn't. He's like, I wouldn't get too worked up over things. Pay attention, get involved, but my world didn't end. Maybe yours won't either. And I'm like, well, I appreciate that. That does give me perspective from time to time when I start feeling a little overwhelmed. But on the same token, I feel like this is on a next level as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, your dad's right, but the world's going to end sometime. Where do you want to be? In your head, in your heart, and in your soul, if that day should call upon you to come upon your hour? Where do you want to be? I mean, it's all a struggle. It's all messy. Birth is messy. Dinner is messy. Love-making is messy. Building a civilization is messy. Tearing a civilization down is messy. It's all messy. It's all dirty. That's the realm we live in right now. Are we a bunch of little goblin kings and queens just walking around in these biomechanical electrical devices with a nuclear component in them, I might add, and just kind of scoping each other out? No. How does it feel? How does it feel when you're in that rare moment, when you're sitting in an auditorium? Everybody remembers this, whether you were a kid or whether it was at a rock show or at a memoriam for somebody. How special is it really when they, and of course a liberal will always diffuse any kind of a philosophical treatise like the one I'm about to offer with some sort of a joke that takes that takes the attention away from the point and reduces it to just some momentary amusement, which is why I loathe those pukes. And I do. I loathe the liberal agenda. I loathe what the Democrat Party represents. I loathe socialism, communism, and fascism. I don't want to be safe. I don't want to be safe. I said this on the show the other day. You want to be safe? Solitary confinement in your local penitentiary. That's safe. I don't want to be safe. I want to be free. I don't give a damn about any of this other stuff. I don't. But here's what I was getting at. Do you remember how you felt when you sat in a large auditorium with a huge group of people, and somebody up there said, "Let's have a moment of silence. We're going to dim the lights," and they pull those lights down to where you can't even see each other, and you just sit there quietly together? Nobody, I don't believe anybody, can deny that indescribable feeling of communion with your other little spirit beings, just to kind of wax yoga for a second. The other spirits there, you can't see each other, but you sense each other. And you're all there single-mindedly for one reason, is to be there in that room for the reason that you came to that room. And you sit there quietly together in silence and just be for a few minutes. That's what we can do. That's who we really are. We're not Michael Brown ripping off cigars. Is it worth killing the kid over a box of cigars? Well, hell no, it's not worth killing the kid over a box of cigars. Kick him in his ass and send him down the road. Say, don't do that anymore, you moron idiot. But see, tolerance has gone down because the bad guys don't look like bad guys anymore. They don't have one of those masks over their eyes with a striped shirt on, the horizontal stripes. Like they're still wearing it from when they got sprung from the penitentiary. They don't wear that. It could be the guy in the nicest business suit you ever saw. It could be this one. It could be that one. And the guy who looks like the rough character is actually the angel in the group. We don't know each other anymore because we've decided that, this thing about discrimination, Brian, to be discriminating once upon a time was a good thing. Now it means you hate black people, or you hate brown people, or you hate white people. But I think the biggest problem with this country right now is that there's a measurable percentage of people who hate themselves, and they reflect it on the rest of the world. And you combine that with the stuff that Howard Beale was talking about, the food that's not good for us, the air that's not fit to breathe. I was talking to somebody. It'll be revealed pretty soon. He neither believes in God nor in chemtrails. Just doesn't believe it. It's not my job to save souls. Not my job at all. It's not between me and him. It's between him and his creator. And that's it. That's where it'll stay. But remaining in denial, I'll quote Professor Griff, founding member of the hip-hop band Public Enemy. America's pathology is her denial. And I think Professor Griff is correct on that one.
I've been looking up into the sky more often, and how do you ignore that? It's not normal traffic. It doesn't happen for a week at a time, and then
it's not normal at all.
No, there's nothing normal about it. I used to stay so far away from chemtrails, John. I just, that is the last damn. And you know why? You know why I stayed away from it? Is because that's like extreme fringe. That's right up there with UFO. Things that I'm totally comfortable talking about, but I know it's like a little bit too much reality for people to handle sometimes. And I got to ask you about Fukushima, too, because you've always been my go-to guy on Fukushima, and you sell some products on your site. But before I get to Fukushima, which is in reference to Howard Beale saying the air is unfit to breathe and the water is unfit to drink, which is what Fukushima's doing. The reason why I avoided chemtrails for so long, but now I'm jumping on board. I'm putting my hand up and saying something is happening and I need a better explanation. I don't have the answers, but unfortunately society likes to say, hey, it's time to wear your tinfoil hat. And I wanted to play this little clip from this Weird Al video. I have it queued up right here. That song Royals by that girl Lorde. Weird Al does this one called Foil. I just want to play you the middle part of it. It's absolutely hilarious because this is what happens when you start talking about chemtrails. I feel like everybody turns their eyes on you and you become this guy. Here we go. And then he's dragged off of the set from Two Guys in Black, and the director rips off his human costume. He's a reptilian flicking his tongue. It's absolutely one of the best things I've ever seen. I've always been a Weird Al fan. But like, I feel like when I bring up certain topics, then it's like lump every piece of crazy together, and that's what you get. But I love that Weird Al put it out there, because this stuff is becoming more mainstream at this point. So I think we're making some progress, John.
We are, and we may beat this thing. We may, but here's the thing: even if we beat it back, it's almost like prayer. I heard this. My favorite preacher, Charles Stanley, one time say, you pray, "Oh God, I'm in so much trouble. Oh God, please help me. Oh God, if you'll just help me. I just need you so much right now." So your prayer is answered, problem goes away, and you don't need God anymore. See ya. That's not what we are allowed to do. This thing is coming at us. If we manage to stop it, or at least slow it down, just because the symptoms settle down doesn't mean that it's gone. Or as Macbeth said, we have scotched the snake, not killed it. So the price of freedom, don't let that word make your eardrums numb. Freedom. You don't want to live in a failed state. You have no, I'm not talking to you, Brian, I'm saying one does not want to live in a failed state. America's people have no idea how the Russians suffered, how the Europeans suffered during World War II and with the Soviets after that. They have no idea how people suffered under Pol Pot, the killing fields in Cambodia, all those skulls. They have no idea what horror really is, and they don't want to know what it is either. And if they don't want to know what it is bad enough, then they will rise up and they will come upon their hour, and they will send this government a message, which is, you're fired. Every one of you SOBs is fired, with the exception of you, and you. The rest of you hit the road. And guess what? You put us on a list, well, we put you on a list too. And there's a bunch of us, thanks to your economic policies that suck, who have enough time on our hands now to be able to picket you, email you, plaster your face and all the stuff you've done in your life all over the place to ensure that you will never hold any sway over another human being for the rest of your life. In fact, some of you will have your names emblazoned forever on the internet and in actual physical stone at certain locations around the country, so that your names with a description of your crimes can be remembered for generations in shame. We're being just a little bit too nice, Brian. They're not nice to us. Why are we obligated to be nice to them? We're not. You're fired. Get out. Get out. And we need to get rid of this Obama one way or another. Impeach him, fire him, charge him, do something, him and Holder, and get him out of here before they get us all killed, so to speak. These guys have either got an agenda that they're running, or they are so bleeping stupid that they're letting it happen. And I believe it's the former and not the latter at all. President Obama is a human being. I respect that. And I'm trying to respect the office of the presidency, but I'm having a real hard time with that. Because it is my opinion that he was born a communist, was raised by communists, and then mentored by communists, and quite possibly put into power with the aid of modern-day communists. Oh, not the ones, that act all freaking weird like the movies of the 50s depict them. No, the style has changed a little bit. Same agenda. Communism is what they want, and what would be even better is communo-fascism. Because at least we might have some measurable GDP, unlike what Russia had under the Soviet boot. So this simply has to be stopped. I never thought in a million years that I would ever get to this point where I was talking with men like you and women like Abby Martin and Amber Lyon and hard hitters, young hard hitters that are going to have to, when we fall, you're going to have to pick that flag up and you're going to have to carry it forward. As long as I got my strength, I'm going to keep doing it. But I tell you, I never decided, hey, you know what? I think I'll go into conspiracy podcasting. I never thought that. Oh, by the way, I'm not picking on Jones. Jones is okay. Jones is the most visible of all the anti-New World Order types.
Yeah, and I think you've even co-hosted for him.
He's been at this for a long time, a hell of a lot longer than I've been at it, and I respect that. Now, his styles and mine are different. That's fine. He's entitled to his style. That's fine. I just don't want it to be like Braveheart when he finally figures out that, wait a minute, you're my best friend. I just don't want any of us, especially the ones who have led the charge for so long, to ever be seduced by the dark side. And it has a very, very strong pull sometimes. And I'm not suggesting that that's what's happening. I'm not. I'm saying money's not everything. It is part of it, but it's not everything. For me, I need the money to be able to keep going. I don't need it to make my boat payments. I don't have a boat. I don't want a boat. From here to the end of the line, I got 10, 15 years, maybe something. I don't know, maybe more than that. If I live to be the age of my grandfather, I'll be around long enough to annoy a lot of people. But from here to the end of the line, this country's been real good to me. It really has. It enabled a guy who grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, went to public school, all that stuff, to be able to raise a family and support them at a comfortable level for many years. Well, I didn't realize what was happening to her. I sensed it, but I didn't know. But now I'm getting to where I know what's happening to her, and I can't remember everything. I'm a little bit like Sherlock Holmes. Like, I don't memorize stuff that I can go and look up. I've only got so much RAM up here in my head. I'm paraphrasing Sherlock. But from here to the end of the line, it's going to be about this country. We need to save it, because the world, I don't know, I don't think it's hubris that makes me say if America didn't exist, the world would be in a lot more chaotic a condition than it is even now.
You know what?
It would be the Middle East everywhere. Anyway, I'll stop.
Well, that's
Thanks
what
for
they're
giving me so much speech time.
I always do. That's how we roll, brother.
I know.
Well, I mean, that's what they want. They want a caliphate. Whether that is partially engineered or not, there is a group of people that want a global caliphate, and it is part of it. I pulled something up here because you got me thinking. I don't know why, but you're just inspiring me to find little clips for movies, and I haven't pre-screened this, so it may be more vulgar than I'm usually prepared to play. But you talked about how you throw them all out. You rise up and say you are all fired, and you etch their names in misery. The Benedict Arnold, the stain that you've given your entire name, the disgrace that falls upon you forevermore. You leave them wondering what now. And this is just a little clip from a movie. Let's see if anyone can guess it.
What now? Let me tell you what now. I'ma call a couple of hard pipe-hitting niggas to work on the homes here with a pair of pliers and a blowtorch. You hear me talking, hillbilly boy? I ain't through with you by damn sight. I'ma get medieval on your ass.
That would be Pulp Fiction, and at some point you have to rise to the level of the Christian ways to turn the other cheek, and I just haven't been hardwired that way, and I strive to become enlightened enough to understand nonviolence, and I look at Ferguson and I say you can't be burning things and encouraging riots. You're supposed to rise up in peace, but when the war hits your door, things change at that point. I think there's a big difference between stirring things up to create a problem versus defending yourself against an enemy once attacked. And it's getting harder and harder at this point in toward the end of August 2014 to say that we're not getting attacked economically, legitimately, violently. Like we're hearing that it's inevitable, people. Just brace yourself for the attack from ISIS. What? It just doesn't. It just doesn't. That doesn't sit well with me, John. You know, and at some
No.
point you got to get medieval, and you got to strap them. You know, strap your boots on. You got to polish what needs to be polished, and you need to stand up and approach evil. Evil needs to be fought head on. You know, I don't know if Christ still wanted to turn the other cheek to pure evil, and I'm missing the point there. But at some point you just got to get medieval and set something right. You know.
I haven't read this, but I heard that he said, keep turning your other cheek. I can't remember if it's that turn your other cheek. Okay, that's twice. Now, on the third one, I smack you. I don't know if it went that way, but I heard one time that he said, turn it like a 7 times 7 or something like this, or 7 with a 7 for the exponent. I don't remember what he said, but a bunch of times. But, you know, as your momentary warrior priest, John B., that's me. Let me just say, we've been turning the other cheek for decades now. I think we're good. I would also submit to you that those cowboys out there, that little dude, Glenn Beck, they're domestic terrorists, and Greta Van Susteren about his supposed, Cliven Bundy's supposed racist statement, unacceptable, and all this other stuff. Well, those cowboys showed a side of the American spirit that those people knew they'd better back down from it. And I would submit to you that inside of every American, there is a cowboy and a cowgirl or a cowgirl trying to get out. And when it hits the fan, it will come out, and we will win. I only worry about what degree of suffering will have to be endured for those cowboys and cowgirls to come out. I think they're coming out now. I think they see the writing on the wall. I believe we are getting stronger. I really do. But I am just trying to get people to just please look at what's happening and think 2 or 3 moves into the game and see where you're going to be in 5 years from now. Forget it. Think of it this way. Where are we going to be as a people? As a people, where are you going to be as an individual? In the time of the average car loan. Just think of it that way. Can't make a 10-year plan, can't make a 20-year plan, fine. Make a 36-month or a 48-month or a 60-month plan. Where will we be? Can you imagine the damage look at the damage that has happened to this country. Look at our image around the world. Look at what's happening to our money, our job. 110 million people on welfare? Oh my God. You got to be kidding me. Well, that makes it sound like if they're getting, oh, and by the way, J.P. Morgan Chase, and you can find this out real easy, gets a slice of the welfare check.
Oh, on the EBT cards now. There's a
Absolutely.
little. Ah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they get a slice. There's money in poverty. That's why they want to keep people in poverty.
And there's
and
power.
all Cliven Bundy said was, you know, hell, they sit on their porches all day. Their little girls get pregnant. Their young men go to jail. They got nothing to do. They got no way to do it. Except they got nothing to do except wait for the next check. He goes, it makes you ask, were they better off as slaves? They had their families. They had things to do. They were clothed and they were housed. I mean, nobody takes a slave that costs $500 other than a psychopath. $500, which is about I don't know how many thousands of dollars in today's money, and then takes the slave home and abuses him. Those guys. Why is it that most of those slaves stayed with their so-called masters? It's because they loved each other. And it wasn't because they were necessarily sleeping with each other, although there was some of that going on too. Just ask Thomas Jefferson when you get up there to see him. Tell him I said hi if you get there before I do. You know, it's like black people and white people get along fine. It's these third-party agitators that get us all jacked up. Now, this deal in Ferguson, that's just a freak deal. You know, there's a lot of poor people down there, and rumors start circulating, and they're already jacked up. They're already all right, pissed off. And so they hear that a kid's gotten shot down by a cop. The fact that he's white makes it worse. Well, I didn't see anybody rioting or picketing or looting or burning over that white kid that got shot by the black cop up in Utah.
That was outside of a convenience store, right? On the curb, was that the one? They're all blending together. We see so many of these damn cop murder stories now. It's hard to keep track.
Well, and again, just playing the so-called devil's advocate, I understand why some of these guys are not suitable to be cops. There is a possibility that some of them have joined and become cops as a legal means of killing people. These things happen. It's like the old Tom Waits song. It's a strange song, too. Everything you can think of is true. Well, everything you can think of is true.
Did you say a Tom Waits song was... I'm sorry. Did you say a Tom Waits song was strange? That's a little redundant, but I'll let that one slide.
Yeah, it is. Well, this is especially strange.
I love Nighthawks at the Diner, one of my favorite albums of all time, but I digress. Go ahead.
Nobody puts a flower on a flower's grave. Wow. I mean, Tom, what happened to make you write this? Anyway.
But yeah, if you can think of it, then it is true.
You just thought of it. It is. I mean, it can be actually even realized. In every group, you're going to find, the geniuses and the nutcases, and the ones that just want to. They're enthusiastic to follow a leader. They're willing to follow. They're willing to be soldiers. That not everybody wants to be a general. I mean, did you ever think you were going to do this? What you do now?
I did. I know that was probably a rhetorical question, but I'm going to jump all over you with that one. I did high school. I was a journalist in high school. I wrote for our little school paper. I announced games at for the high school football. In college, I was doing radio, and I wrote for that newspaper. I mean, I always imagined that I was going to. I don't know. I liked connecting to the important stuff and putting my opinion out there.
Cool.
I didn't feel like. Okay, I also felt like I was going to be a professional baseball player or maybe a football player, but I didn't grow enough. And, sure, I had other ideas of what I wanted to do, but I was a musician. I wanted to make it in music. You were a music DJ for a long time, and you loved music just as much as I did. And, that didn't work out for me as a career yet. I'm still young enough to keep going, but I don't know. I did not envision that I was going to be on the pseudo front lines of some really, really horrible stuff just about to tip over, and I'm trying like hell to keep it from happening. No.
I think you read my mind just then, because I was going to say, well, then, Brian, riddle me this. Did you ever think you'd be talking about the stuff that you're talking about these days?
Yeah, I don't think I put those thoughts together, because ignorance is bliss. It would have been nice to just be a sports fan and music fan and just get drunk on the weekends and just... I've lived that life. I can't do it. I think it was my 8th grade teacher who really got me hooked on history, because we got bonus points for watching the news and knowing what the name of the hurricane was and what murder trial was going on and what civil war was breaking out. I just got hooked on it, and I like knowing what's happening. But
yep.
It's an uncomfortable place to be, but the only more uncomfortable place would be for me to be sitting on the sidelines. I'd rather be on the field if the game's going to be happening with or without me.
Yep. Well said. Well said. Well, peace can also be very exciting. People say, there's a little thing that nags me and maybe others. That's like, it's almost like, couldn't I sin just a little bit more? Because it's so much fun and still be saved. I mean, couldn't I just kind of be a little bit naughty? I mean, not evil, but just naughty. And by the same token, the answer to that is not really. But
oh, don't spoil it for me, John. Come on. I was starting to feel where you're going there. I was like, yeah, that guy makes a lot of sense. He's a prophet.
I mean, if we have peace and all that, I mean, where's the juice? Where's the action? Where's the danger? It's like, folks, life is dangerous. I mean, there's a banana peel out there waiting for somebody, and that person's going to bust their head and check out as a result of it. So, look, we're all going to check off of the planet one day, so there's plenty of danger even during peacetime to keep the adventurous spirit sated for the most part. But it is possible to have an exciting piece of exploration. And if we're going to do something dangerous, let's do it by actually trying to bend time and space and make a light speed jump from here over to that star system over there, and it'll take 20 years. But we're going to try it. We're going to do it. Let's do some stuff like that. Not let's go, well, how many people do you think we'll lose if we invade Syria? We don't need to be doing that anymore. Either the Middle East is so insane that it's like we might as well go over there and make some money because they're insane anyway, or we've just gotten used to playing both sides against the middle for so long that now all of the sides are pointing their fingers at us going, so you are the perpetrator of this, and they're coming for us. The American people are the ones that are going to do the suffering for the sins of their leaders. They would do well to remember that. In every war, 90% of the casualties are civilians. You know why that is? Because the people allow it.
And I sometimes think that whole region is a little off-center, a little wacky, a little nuts, and I can't make any damn sense of it. But when you do realize all the stuff that we're doing behind the scenes, and when I say we, it's not you and me, John. It's some other people that you and I also don't like. You know, I mean, we're on the same team if we come from that perspective. But when it comes to convert or die, yeah, I think we got a problem.
Well, they don't call them closed-door meetings for nothing.
Yeah, and imagine, John, take yourself into a closed-door meeting. What do you want to see happen with Syria here? Because part of me is feeling riled up, and it's like, just turn it to glass. I am so sick of all this crap. And then the other side of me goes, hold on, you're being tricked again, just like Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction. So I'm kind of, what would you do if you were in that closed-door meeting with Syria, with ISIS, with terror cells, with the southern border? Like, put you in charge. What would the first couple things, what would you want to do if you were in charge for a day? Closed-door meeting.
In charge of everything? Well, I'd have to know a lot more than I do now, but I haven't heard a lot of chatter coming out of Egypt lately, so it looks like they decided we're not going to live this way and we're going to have an election. So things seem fairly stable over there now. They've been pretty quiet, but again, I don't really know. Now, where ISIS is concerned, what I do is I get a hold of the Joint Chiefs and the director of the CIA and go, I need some answers, and I need them now. Now, who started this cluster foxtrot? And don't try and cover your backsides on this, because if you try it, I'll know, and I'll have you arrested. And I can do that under the Emergency War Powers Act, which I'm about 15 minutes from signing. Now, spit it out. Who are these cats, and who started this? Is this one of ours? Is this our operation? You trained them, didn't you? What's your name? You trained them. All right, well, I'll tell you what. You got 24 hours to come up with some ideas, and they better be good ones. You try and write some densely worded paragraph to me to try and cover yourself, and I'm going to know that's what you did, and you're going to be fired and probably charged. And I need for you to find out how strong they are and where they are. I want you to use every asset that we have. We don't have any on the ground, thanks. We just lost one. That would be Foley. So I want satellite pictures. I want everything. I want everything you got. Get a hold of those Nazis down there in South America and tell them we want to borrow the Hanabu for a couple of days. And you get that thing over there and scare the hell out of everybody. I want them to see that UFO over there. And I want you to get me some pictures and bring back. And don't give me another troop count of between 10,000 and 50,000. I want answers, and I want numbers, and I want them now. Okay, now get out of here. I'll see you in 24 hours. And I don't mean 24 hours and 1 second either. And then I would probably start talking to the Navy. I'd get on the phone with Vlad and go, I'm coming over for a drink. Get the Dasha ready, and I want a couple of cute Devotchkas hanging around. I'm just kidding. Actually, if you do a deal with the Russians, they'll send the prettiest girl over to your table to bring you your drink or your meal, and if you so much as acknowledge her presence, they will mark you instantly as weak. So don't do that. That's just a heads up.
I'm gonna have to file that one away. Yeah, okay. I'm filing that one away. All right.
Yeah, definitely. I'd get a hold of Vlad and go, what are we going to do about this? I mean, why don't you take half and I'll take half? It'll be like the old days. Or do we just leave Assad alone? I'll tell you what, Vlad. Now, if you screw me, I'm telling you I'm going to screw you back, and you're going to stay screwed. But I'll make a deal with you. It'll be a handshake deal. You handle Assad. And while this Ukraine thing is going on, I really don't blame you. I know what happened over there. They were trying to pull Ukraine into the EU because it's fallen on its backside. They wanted the oil and gas. I understand you're not wanting to let that or the Navy base go. I'm okay with that. But you got to promise me you're going to limit the casualties. You can't do any heavy artillery or aerial bombing, none of that. Okay? Just don't do it. We'll talk with that guy and get him to chill out, and we'll see if we can just cool this off a little bit so you guys aren't killing each other. But you handle Assad. Either you handle him or I'm going to handle him, and I don't think you want me to handle him. Okay, I take care of Bashir. Now, you're going to take care of Bashir. Yes. You promise. Yes. All right. You promised 3 times. You better do it. All right. See you. Let's have one more vodka. All right. Get me to the plane. And then I'd come back to D.C., and I think I would clear my calendar of all my vacation plans. And by the time a month had gone by, everybody in the Pentagon would be totally sick of me because they were actually being compelled to do their job. It's like, we got one shot at this, and that's it. The next thing I would have already done, actually, is I would have closed that border, and I would have just said, you got 30 days to leave the country. If you don't, your assets will be seized along with any cash and possessions that you have. You will if you re-enter this country, and as we determine that you do it, it's going to be a forced incarceration at a very, very dreary labor camp for a long time. So don't come in here again. We understand it's screwed up down there. We're going to try and do something about it. But see, that's a good way to wind up like Kennedy. Because if you want to really help anybody down in the Central American, South American countries, you're going to have to deal with the cartels. Because that's how they make their money, oil and drugs. Everybody needs money. They look at the U.S. and they go, we want more like that. We want good cars and big houses. We want everything that they have. So what we have to do at that point then, man, if I was in charge, it would take more than a day, but it's like we have to make a philosophical shift away from materialism. We can no longer put bumper stickers on our cars that say, he who dies with the most toys wins. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, well, a lot of people took that to heart. And now their iPhone and their music box, where they use on their phone, they got a separate device for that, and their big screen TV and all this social media and all this stuff, they're distracted on so many levels that it's dumbing them down. You just seen these articles recently that have come out about, are we getting more stupid?
Yeah,
IQ scores are dropping. Well, gee, I wonder why. How long do they think it's going to take after a couple of 3 generations of continual fluoride and chlorine ingestion, coupled with GMO, coupled with whatever's in the air, and all these drugs? And you just heard about the whistleblower at the CDC who said that whole 2004 report on the the MMS,
the vaccines
and the autism study was a complete. He used the F word, fraud. We know that global warming is a fraud. It's only a mechanism to redistribute wealth from wealthy countries, money from wealthy countries to other parts of the world. It is, in fact, a mechanism to bring about global communism. No country any more powerful than any other. All of them being run by one central think tank. And the United Nations, as President of the United States, I would kick their asses out of this country. I would say, if you SOBs want to be what you are, tell you what, we got an aircraft carrier over here that we were going to mothball, but we're going to put you on it. And you can go sail around, but you're not going to be in New York City or anywhere in this country. I'm throwing you out. And we're going to use the United Nations building as a museum to illustrate all of the heinous individuals who have perpetrated their insanity on people who only wanted to live their life. Legacy. Now get out of here, and don't let the door hit you in the backside on your way out. But you better go quick, or it will hit you in the backside on your way out, because I'm going to kick it shut. That's what needs to happen. We need to actually discover that the men actually have some testosterone left over. The women are the ones that are out there going, are you going to do anything about this, or do we have to do it? Men are out there making A-bombs. Women are planning how to clean up the mess that the boys have made again. Seriously, we need a complete shift, a la the 1960s, only in a much different direction. We need a dramatic shift in consciousness and philosophy, and just decide that the car, want more car, motorcycle, want many more motorcycles, drink, want more drink, drug, want more drug. That's all got to go away. Stuff, want more stuff. No. You can't. You can't do it. It's making people jealous, and it's sucking up too many resources, and and your stuff, if you haven't noticed, owns you.
Yeah,
there,
I've noticed that. No, I don't want you to be dumb, because here's what I want you to do. As a favor to me and as a favor to your listeners, I think John B. Wells, I think you need to do a State of the Union speech on your show sometime. But, actually hash something out, have a little bullet-pointed agenda to kind of go through how you would fix things. Because, honestly, I think we all have that moment where we'd say, you know, if I were in charge for a day, oh my Lord, here's where I would start. Because none of it seems to be making much sense right now. You know, the president just comes out, he says, I don't have a plan on ISIS. Oh, awesome. That's fantastic.
Why would you say something like that in public? I guess for the same reason that you say stupid things like, I'm pretty good at killing people. What kind of a president would say such a thing, Brian?
You know, not much of one. And that was the hardest thing for me to listen to when you were, if you were in charge for a day. Because when you were talking with Vladimir and you were doing things, my brain was having such a hard time processing this because that's the exact opposite of how our president handles himself. Either he's in bed with the bad guys making things worse, or he's totally outclassed and totally in over his head, completely inept. It's one of the two. You and I, this is not the first time I've discussed this with you, but it's one of the two. And as you were saying these things, I couldn't even imagine an American president doing that because we haven't had it in so long.
You know, Brian, the scary part to me is that it's a lot of fun talking with you because you prompt a lot of what I think are fairly cogent thoughts. I'm afraid it's both of those things.
How could it be both? If he was bad at being a bad guy, then wouldn't things be working out accidentally?
I think what he is he's in collusion with the nefarious ones, and he's a rank amateur at it.
But it's like a double negative. Like you said, a weird Tom Waits song. Okay, that's redundant. That was a double positive. If it's a double negative...
It just means they can use him. He's easy to use. They can manipulate him. Now listen, what we want you to do is climb down this cannon, okay? And I want you to tie this ribbon on the end of the shell that you'll feel down there at the bottom, and then back out real slow. Okay. That's what I mean by rank amateur. Either one of us would go, what? You go down there, Howie. I'm not going down the barrel of the cannon. But he'll do what he's directed to do. Because at this point, I think what we've got are a couple of, with this president and this attorney general, I think we have a couple of real America haters. I mean, these guys absolutely have no regard for the law whatsoever. I mean, he said that if he were to put his signature on either amnesty or something, it was on Drudge. The quote was, "Well, I would effectively be breaking the law." This guy doesn't care about breaking the law because everybody thinks that the black people will go crazy. You know what? I got the nicest email from this lady that said, "John, I just want you to know that my husband and I are both black Americans, and that the comments that you have made are not racist. You are absolutely correct in your comments about Ferguson." And she went on to prove it. I mean, it wasn't just somebody making up that, I'm going to tell them that I'm black, make him feel better. That's not how it goes. We got phones down at the office too, and some of the people who contact us leave phone numbers. Please feel free to call me if you want to. So sometimes I have the blonde savant do that. That's a code name for the coordinator down there. And
it's a good name. I like that.
Oh yeah, blonde savant. Get it?
It's good,
and it's true, but yeah, this whole black and white thing, they're playing this as much as they possibly can.
Of course they are, John. Of course they are. I live in a black neighborhood, and half of the people, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a cool person, you're a cool person. If you're up to some crap, you need to be called out on it. And if you're up to a lot of crap, then we have a real big problem. I don't care if you're white. I don't care what color you are. None of that stuff makes... So few people in my life give a damn about what people look like. It's about the actions. I don't think anyone cares about people that are Muslim, that are practicing a healthy spiritual connection with what they deem to be God. It's the problem when it's convert or die, decapitation, head on a spike. Okay, I think we have a problem here. This isn't a racial thing. This isn't you look like that. It's not a continental thing. It's an action thing. Ferguson was, MSNBC loved the opportunity to try to drum that thing up. They missed on Trayvon Martin because it looked like George Zimmerman was actually attacked after probably following a guy a little too close because there were burglaries in his neighborhood. Not a crime to follow someone, it is a crime to attack someone, and he just had a more powerful opportunity to defend himself. They missed out on that chance, and then we gotta get it on Ferguson. I just read a story today, and I'm trying to track it down. That as a juvenile, that man who was involved in the Ferguson situation may or may not have been involved in second-degree murder with sealed court records. I can't claim any of that stuff to be true. I don't know if the cop had suffered an orbital eye socket blowout. I'm reading stories just like everybody else. That's why I'm not rushing to judgment, because I'm taking in all the facts and data before I jump up and demand things. I think that's the attitude we need to have, and not stirring things up and trying to get the two dogs barking at each other instead of the mailman, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. Now, if it turns out, I've always thought that maybe stealing something from a guy, but they don't know you've stolen anything yet, and like you say, the crushed orbital. First it was, we talked with a fellow named Stephen King who lives up there outside of Ferguson. He's got a gun training center and stuff like that, and he's an ex-cop of 25 years, and he goes, well, of course they left him out there like that. They got to see where the shell casings fell. They got to see everything. It's treated like a crime scene. And if this guy is guilty, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. If he did something wrong, he goes, but the word that I've got is that he's got a busted nose, his jaw's busted in two places, and his orbital's crushed. Well, 2 days later, CNN comes out and says, well, it's just like his face was swollen, but, his orbital wasn't crushed. It's like, you don't know if his orbital was crushed or not. CNN's numbers are going into the toilet, right along with MSNBC. Why? Because nobody's watching. Why is that? Because it's rubbish. That dude Ed Schultz and all these people, and Brzezinski's daughter, I think, worked for MSNBC.
Yeah, she's in the morning with Morning Joe. What's her name? Yeah, you know what? And I like it. What's her name? That blonde with the legs. Who cares? We don't know her enough to pay attention because, exactly, that person. Sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to smoke the cigarette with her afterwards, but I don't know what I think the conversation would probably be a basking in the afterglow killer, but yeah, it's very cute, very attractive. But
yeah, the ratings are going through the toilet. We don't have all the facts in the case, and if it turns out that this cop did do, we get the data and it looks like, hey man, this guy had surrendered and he was just shot in the back, and that's not what the 3 autopsies. We still don't have the toxicology reports on that, by the way. Where the hell are those, and why is that taking so long? If this cop was indeed injured, why,
I don't know, man.
Why didn't the police put this out there to calm it down? Like, this guy was attacked. He was attacked, and he has busted up facial this, that, and the other. We're going to put this all out in the court case. Can you guys calm down? We want to explain this. So it's leading me to believe maybe none of that did happen, and that's other disinfo trying to stick up for a cop. I'm not sticking up for a dirty cop, but I need the data before I start screaming and burning things and taunting riot police. That's just nutty.
If people are running around with signs that say "kill the police" and they're stealing ATMs and they're busting up stores and stealing stuff out of there, that's just criminal behavior. That's not justice. That's not a protest. That's a riot, complete with the looting.
Yeah.
Now, do I think people should be shot for that? No. Only if they threaten other people's lives who are saying, "Get out of here. This is my shop. You guys get out of here." If they say, "Well, we'll just bleep you up," it's like that's when the guns go off right then. As soon as you're threatened,
your life is in danger. Right. I felt.
That's just how it is.
For my life. Yeah.
You want to give up your life, or do you want to save your life? What's it going to be? Look what happened at the L.A. riots. The Koreans were up on their rooftops.
Yep.
With their deer rifles.
And what is it?
I'd clear them.
And what is it? I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Well, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is the story that I got from this guy who's supposed to be in the know, the Stephen King.
Yeah.
So they were walking down the middle. They were out in the middle of the street, and the cop just beeped them, told them, "Hey, get out of the street." And it was like, bleep you. And it's like, what? So Michael Brown supposedly rushed the cop, and I guess was going to, knock the man about his face and lips, as Alexander Scott used to say on I Spy, played by Cosby. And the gun went off in the car. And the cops beat up. And I noticed when they were showing the shot placement from the front, if this is to be believed, I'm just basing my comments on the evidence that's been presented so far.
Yeah, this is a if X, then Y and Z. Now, if B, then C and D. Now, if M, and you go down, it's like, okay, well, if this happened, because in this situation, I couldn't imagine, being a punk or whatnot, I couldn't imagine just rushing an officer to punch him in the face. Unless they were really close, or...
Well, man, I can't imagine somebody coming up going, kill me, after he just stole a soda pop.
You're right.
Well, how about that white kid with the AK-47, man? You remember? Did you see that video where he's obviously he didn't want to kill the two policemen that were in the car? Either that or it was a cop driving, and maybe it was his girlfriend or his wife with him. I don't know. It looked like he was out in the sticks somewhere. And this kid's got this AK, and he goes, boom, 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 and he's hitting the car all over. But all he had to do if he wanted to kill the policeman is just aim toward the steering wheel. But he didn't do that. He was just shooting the hell out of the car, and then he changed his magazines. He's telling the guy, kill me, shoot me. You know, so the cop goes out there and shoots him. I mean, he just dumps his whole 15-round mag plus one up the pipe at this kid, knocks it, and the kid just falls over.
Yeah, I didn't see that one, but I saw the one where the guy, come on, kill me, wait, shoot me, come on, kill me. You know,
what are you going to do with that?
In Ferguson, a couple miles away,
St. Louis, yeah, St. Louis.
Yeah, that was terrible.
How do you deal with something like that?
Well, when he came up on the side, and you know he was going right. I watched it multiple times, and it was horrible. I hated watching that, but you know what he was doing. He was suicide by cop. It was mental problems.
Here's the deal, man. Civilized people don't behave that way. They don't understand that kind of behavior because they wouldn't do it themselves. Now, right over here in Highland Park, Texas, which is a very nice part, we call it the bubble. You know, it's like the Beverly Hills of this part of the world, and it's nice. Well, this guy was all despondent about his wife divorcing him. He was just this nerdy accountant guy. This is some years ago. And he grabbed the scissors and he killed a woman right in front of her. In any case, he used these scissors on her and whacked her out. Okay, these things happen, but and he just sat there in court with just this look on his face like there wasn't any emotion. It was just total deadpan.
Yeah, that's one. Is it psychotropic drugs or is it
reality?
Yeah,
you know, and this stuff happens. It doesn't matter whether you live in the ghetto, as they call it, or the hood, or if you live in Beverly Hills. I mean, remember that lunatic DuPont when he whacked out his friend and trainer or whatever it was? The heir to the DuPont thing. This is many years ago. People do crazy things like that. They do. But that you cannot... The ones that are doing the rioting and the looting in Ferguson were mostly black folks, aided and abetted by, I don't know, I didn't see any white folks. There might have been some there. I know there were some that were part of the protest. Now they're raising hell and all that.
I saw a couple
but
that
crime
were...
is crime. It doesn't matter what color the person is that's committing it. Crazy is crazy. Crazy doesn't have... Homicidal craziness does not respect color of skin.
Yeah,
it just doesn't.
It's a non-discriminating character flaw. It runs rampant.
We got to get rid of this race thing and all this racist stuff, and this slavery thing needs to be. We need to get past that. Nobody who is alive today had anything to do with that.
That's easy for you to say, John. That's easy for you to say, John.
To do with that.
As a middle-class white guy, that's easy for you to say. That's exactly what they say. That's the response to that. Well,
nobody has. Look, nobody was more put upon. Nobody was more of a slave than the Irish, who built by hand the entire New York subway system back in the 1800s that still exists. Nobody was put upon more than the Italians when they come over here, or the Jews. I'm tired of hearing about everybody's struggle. Quit whining. Get off your ASS and go out there and make something of yourself. Stop blaming somebody else for the fact that you're a scumbag and a liar and a thief and a drug addict and a rapist and a criminal. Square yourself away and unbleep yourself, as Gunnery Sergeant Hartman said in Full Metal Jacket. Quit blaming people for being a screw-up. It's not their fault. It's your fault. Take some responsibility and stop being a whining little titty baby. Sorry. Did I actually say that on your show? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man.
Hey.
At least I left off dude.
I think you consider dude to be a much larger offense than a couple of choice words from time to time dancing around.
Well, the society's paradigm has shifted so much. Now alpha hole is now, I consider, when somebody calls me that, I consider it to be a badge of honor.
Oh, man.
You know, have you noticed that there's not one, but I'm talking about men now, and maybe women too, but I'm not a woman, so I don't know.
Yet.
I haven't ever heard any man who really actually had something going on in his life that people who didn't have that much going on did not refer to him as an alpha hole.
An alpha hole.
Yeah, why would they call him that? It's because he has been able to exploit his opportunities in a manner that you have not, and you're jealous. That's why you call him that. which is why I say I consider it a badge of honor. I don't get that label very often, but sometimes.
Yep. I jumped in and took away when I was confused. Why would this guy jump in and punch the cop? I want to get back to Stephen King real quick as we wrap this up, and then I got to get a Fukushima update out of you.
Okay.
Now, so your buddy that's connected over there, his version of the story. Cop pulls up, says, "Hey, get out of the road." Guys say, "F you." Then this Michael Brown charges the cop and hits him about the face and lips. That's where we were.
Yeah, because if that is Michael Brown in the store, roughing up the store clerk, I can't say that judging from that goofy picture they put up of Brown, that was the same guy, but it kind of looks like it. I mean, how many 6'4", 300-pound guys are around there? Probably quite a few.
And it sure looks like
Brown? Okay, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Let's say that it was.
Well, hold on. It also, John, it also looks like no, my bad. I'm interrupting you. It also looks like the skinny dreadlock dude that came out and gave his version of the events. It looked like he was the one holding the door there, and that guy admitted that they did go to the store and steal those.
Okay, so it was Brown. So he's already jacked up. And now the cop comes over there, and he's that country-looking cop, with his ears sticking out. He's got some ears, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Bless his heart. And he says, "Y'all get out of the road," And they're like, "Hey, man." So let's say Brown did rush him because the gun went off in the car. Somebody said the gun went off in the car. More than one person said the gun went off in the car.
Yeah, I'm hearing that everywhere. There was a discharge somewhere in the vehicle that there was an attempt made to get the gun. Now, did he pull up right next to these guys and say, "Hey, get out of the road," in a quick hit?
Don't know that, but
am I getting arrested?
I'm just guessing that he drove up. I mean, maybe he called over his PA to get out of the street from 20 feet away. Unknown, Brian. I just can't answer that.
Exactly. Same here.
But anyway, so they head off down the street after punching the cop out. The cop gets out and says, "Halt." And Brown turns around and charges him again. And I noticed where the impact points of the officer's bullets on Brown's body. I mean, it's a tragedy. Anytime a young man gets whacked out, I don't care really what he was doing. I don't care if he's absolutely, completely guilty. It's still horrible.
John, that kill me outside of the convenience store stealing 2 pops, that was horrible. And that guy was asking to be... Yes, it made me disgusted for humanity. I don't get any joy out of watching it. I get no pleasure. It made me sad. A part of my soul died watching that. The murder by cop thing that was on video a couple days later, the kid caught it on tape. I didn't enjoy watching that at all.
No, not at all. And how about? And I don't like seeing that black guy's dog get shot by this cop. It was just a Rottweiler puppy, and it was
jumped out the
concerned
window
over its master, going, "What's going on?" This dumbass cop just, no mace or anything like that. Just go ahead and just kill the dog. I thought it was horrible, and they kill people's dogs all the time, and I think that's wrong. It was in our way. It's like, well, you big dumbass. Thanks for killing my golden retriever, you moron. You alarmed the dog by coming through the yard, but you had probably a drug suspect. Well, if your masters weren't letting the drugs in here through an open border, you probably wouldn't have to be so worried about drugs. There are two sides to it. But going back to the cop, so Brown charges him. This guy's already beat up. So he's got his gun on him, and he says, "Halt!" in the name of the law or whatever he says. Guy doesn't stop, so he starts shooting, and you notice the impact points are up his right arm, and they gradually make their way up the right side of his body if they finally hit him in the head. So I asked Stephen, I said, was he using a Glock by chance, 9 milli? And he goes, "I believe it was 40 caliber, but yeah, it's a Glock." I said, every time I shoot one of those damn things, I always pull off to the left as the magazine gets emptier because it's a lightweight weapon, and as the weight goes away from the cartridges being fired and the gun gets lighter and lighter, I would pull, unless I'm really concentrating, I'll keep pulling to the left. He goes, "Well, most people pull their shots to the left." He goes, and you're probably exactly right. That's what happened. And that Glock 40 is going to kick more than the 9 milli. So if the cop's already jacked up and he's hurt, then he's not going to be hitting square in the middle. But as far as him shooting in the back and all that, I would be very surprised if it turns out that Michael Brown was shot in the back. If he was shot in the back, that's a problem.
That is a problem. We agree with that, and I've seen 3 autopsies, and I haven't heard any more about this shot in the back. It doesn't, at least in my understanding of things, that didn't occur.
Like I say, if anybody, I saw these California cops shoot this guy in the back. He'd already given up. He had his hands up. He was against the car, and this bastard came up there and shot him in the back, killed him. Look, this stuff happens. I'm not taking the side of the cops, but just like back in 85, some some terrorists had blown up the Rome and I want to say the Rome and Vienna airports, let off bombs over there. And that was when Gaddafi was kind of running wild a little bit. And I remember that the London police, the bobbies, now they all got MP5s, those Heckler and Koch MP5 submachine guns, the black ones you see in all the movies.
Yeah.
And one of the spokesmen said, I think it's deplorable that police must be dispatched in this fashion. And because the bobbies, for years, the unarmed bobbies could talk the shotgun-wielding bank robber out of it and have him surrender. And every once in a while, one of them would get killed. But in England, the cops were unarmed. And they still managed to talk a lot of people down from the ledge who were about to absolutely ruin their lives, commit a murder. It was bad enough they were going to do time for bank robbery. But to kill a person, it's like they would just quietly take somebody away like, oh, you poor soul, my God, may he have mercy on your soul. You are such a disaster and a cluster foxtrot of a human being. And they just take the person away, and they'd go to Strangways prison, which is like a nightmare. It's just abject deprivation. It's horrible. Prison in England, anywhere in Europe, is absolutely, it's horrible.
Yeah, I was watching what this show called, I think it was on A&E. It was called Turn. I don't know if you caught that one. It was about America's first spy ring during the Revolutionary War, and they talked about the deplorable conditions of the boats when they would put the prisoners, the captives, out on the boats, and it was just beyond a death trap. It was.
See, that's going too far.
Yeah.
And then but the liberals come along. I remember one liberal woman saying something like, "The measure of our civilization is how well we treat the very worst of us." Well, I say that I go back to the old axiom, which is the measure of a civilization is the distance between it and its bioeffluvia. Okay? That's why the Romans decided to build those aqueducts and get that sewage out of here. And there is two-legged sewage as well as the immobile sewage. And we need to separate ourselves from that. But we do not. I mean, that's why it's part of the Bill of Rights. No weird people, no strange and unusual punishment techniques. I think melting somebody in an electric chair is pretty rough way to check out. That strikes me as being cruel and unusual punishment. But sometimes when justice is meted out in a murder case like that, assuming you've got the guilty party, which is kind of rough, and blacks have taken it on the backside for decades. More than decades, maybe. But some white ones have, too. There are a lot of innocent people of all colors who have been sentenced to death wrongfully. And it's just the way it is.
And in today's day and age, it's there's so much less of what used to be happening back in the day. 150 years ago, around the Civil War, in the 1960s. This is just a totally different world. Everybody has cameras. You can't really get away with all that crap that used to go on. And frankly, the society has changed for the better in most ways. And I don't hear the story, you don't see the same people running out there and talking about the Marine that was heckled, hey, white boy, and beaten senseless, and the guy that was knocked out at the Waffle House. It's not safe for whites in here. You don't see people flipping out because it's just an act of evil. It's just an act of stupidity and violence, and I just feel like there's less and less of that, and that's what we need to focus on. Yes, if Michael Brown was shot 11 times in the back of his head, in the back of his spine, in the back of his leg, okay, yep, we got a big problem, and that cop needs to go away forever. If there's a gray area, we slow down and get the facts, and that's where I'm at on that. But where I'm at on this now is we're wrapping up the show, John, and I just want to get a Fukushima update from you, because as soon as I try to pretend that this is better, or Fukushima drifts from my mind's eye and it falls down on my list of priorities, something reminds me again. Can you give us an update? Can you tell us about the products that you sell on your website and just kind of get us up to speed with what we know now, how many years later?
Well, the products on the website, we've got a couple of really good Geiger counter models from Vince Mazer up in Colorado. They're American-made. The only thing that's made anywhere other than the United States is the international AC adapter that's made in Taiwan, so at least it doesn't say made in China on it. We were carrying some from the Russians back in the days, but because the supplies were just tapped out right after Fukushima in March of 2011. So we went with the Russian devices, and they're good. I mean, they're still in service. We haven't had any complaints on them. They work well, but the demand was so heavy on them that there began to be some problems with just little stuff like the batteries wouldn't want to stay in and stuff like this. And I went, that's not going to work. We're not going to pass this on to anybody. And then Vince Mazer contacted us. So these are real good devices. And the thing that's most interesting about them is not only for this caliber of instrument are they reasonably priced, and they really are, but also there's a special cable. People will go, well, I don't want to pay that for that cable. It's a special cable. It's not just something you can pick up at your local Radio Shack. And you can plug it into your PC, and you can map. I mean, the battery life is almost interminable. So you can chart and see on a graph where your spikes of radiation occurred over a period of days. You can just leave the thing on practically all the time. So it's a great device. And we've got everything from heirloom seeds and water purification devices like these excellent Berkey ones. I've never drunk so much water in my life as I have since I got one of these Berkey filters, because the water is delicious and it filters out to the virus level, and it's good stuff. It really is. And so much stuff on there. We've got a great library. All of the guests that we bring on the program, we have links to get their books if people are interested in that. And people will enjoy it. Even it's like the greatest salesman in the world once said, you'll be interested in this even if you don't buy it. So I urge people to come to Caravan to Midnight. Just look around the site. You'll enjoy it.
And is Fukushima fixed, or is it still an issue?
No, man, it's not fixed at all. Let's see. I'm looking at my favorite. There's a quote by me on this. E&E News, my favorite website for this sort of thing, says John B. Wells, while hosting Coast to Coast AM, the #1 overnight radio program in the U.S. I thought that was nice of them to put that up there. Here's one from the 29th. Accident in Reactor 3 fuel pool at Fukushima. A large piece of wreckage falls nearby spent uranium rods. M5 quake hits plant soon after. Official unable to say whether any have been damaged. Then we got officials reveal about 2 trillion becquerels of Fukushima radioactive material flowed into ocean every month during 2013. Deadly strontium releases now more than double cesium. Strontium gets into your bones. It changes the equation. Here's one more. Major science meeting on Fukushima's link to wildlife problems on West Coast. Looking closely at extent of radiation coming into affected areas and how to best assess impact. Human health experts reevaluating radiation limits in seafood. FDA levels not terribly protective.
Reevaluating what we will allow you to consume. That's disgusting. The brilliant minds in the world.
Killer. I mean, it really is. It's a potential planet killer. And the thing that's the damnable misery about it, Brian, is that even with all the imagination that I could possibly muster, I cannot fathom a solution to this. They're talking about everything from ice walls and they've just lied and lied and lied and lied. But see, that goes back to the philosophy of things. The Japanese thought, we kick Yankee ass. We'll put that remember those great 240Zs they put out? That was an expensive car, and they lost money on it. And they made it available at a very reasonable price because they wanted to compete, and they did. And then, as you noticed, for the Z cars, which were their most popular cars, as the models changed, they got more expensive and more expensive and more expensive until they wound up capturing an enormous market share. They wanted to compete. They had come out of the use that word again, the deprivation of World War II, and now they were going to compete on a global level with these great products. They were dedicated, and they wanted to build something great. They're not really good at inventing things themselves, but man, they can take something that you've invented and they can improve that thing beyond your wildest dreams. They're really, really good at that, and they adapted quickly, just like that GTR. That thing's put together, that engine's put together in a clean room, and the motor's hermetically sealed. It's insane. I mean, these people are really good. So they thought, we kick Yankee butt. So they built 54 nuclear reactors along a known fault line. You know the word kamikaze? Well, it means divine wind. And the reason that that word came into being was that on 2 occasions, great big tsunami-producing, unbelievably strong divine winds saved Japan from invasion and certain destruction on 2 occasions. I mean, one in the 1200s and then another one later. I don't remember when. So they have a history of having storms. And this last one, that the one that was big enough to destroy Fukushima Daiichi, was the evil wind rather than the divine one, unless its purpose was to deliver them unto the presence of the divine entity, because that place is screwed up completely. Hundreds of cases of thyroid cancer. I mean, it's big time bad. And up and down the west coast of this country and on up into toward Alaska, you know, the sea stars melting, weird mutations on the sea life, you know, weird creatures that belong way out yonder and way, way down there. What's the name of that fish? An oarfish. Nobody sees an oarfish from the beach. That's a deep water fish. And then the scientists were wrong. They said, oh, well, no big deal. As the radioactive water goes into the Pacific, it'll all be diluted by salt water, and that'll be a good thing. Well, no, that's not the case. It collects in big globs of radioactive airless bubbles, if you will. It clings together, and those concentrations are extraordinarily high, and there's weird stuff happening to all the sea life all over California. But the news media keeps it suppressed because they don't want to freak everybody out. And it's worth being freaked out about because it's slow. I mean, these things are insidious. It doesn't kill you all at once. It starts changing your DNA. It starts changing your RNA. And the releases over there are strong enough to unwind your bleeping helix permanently. It's bad. And if you get this app, and I recommend that you do, it's called SafeCast, and it comes from an outfit in Japan, you can see the spread of radiation across the world. I mean, it is not, it's not abating at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
I did download that app, but the most important question, and I have it, and I do look at it, and it might be prompting me to move a little bit more inland, but, you know, there'll just be another problem over there. All that aside, the important thing we want to know is, did you see President Obama's new suit? What did you think of him in that color? Wasn't that an interesting suit that he was wearing when he came out and said we didn't have a strategy? No, it's the truth. We're not paying attention to this story. It's not settled, and it's polluting the air. It's polluting the water. I mean, we all have to swim in this pool. This is something we all need to pay attention to. I'm going to keep following it. You don't hear much about it, but that's why every time I talk with you, I got to kind of get the latest, because I know you're still digging around on it, and I know we still haven't gotten the 2 thumbs up. Hey, okay, everything's good. So, yeah, if you guys want to take a look over at John's site, Caravan to Midnight. He has some, like he said, some products over there where you can test and see just how bad the things are that you have and that you're coming in contact with. I recommend that as well. Rapid fire, 2 quick things on our way out the door. Number 1, did you happen to see that there were strange lights reported just around the time that there was that San Francisco earthquake?
Yes, I did see that report, and it's interesting that they called a scientist to make comments on it, and he said, well, we don't really know why this happens, but it does. It's like, well, gee, that's funny. Not until the other day did I ever hear, after several decades of hearing all about earthquakes, I never heard about any electrical activity that caused bluish lights in the sky, but apparently this is common. No. So everybody's wondering if HAARP did it, of course, and who knows.
Second rapid-fire question. A few weeks ago, if you remember, Joan Rivers came out and said we have our first gay president, the president's gay, and Michelle's a tranny, and she delivered it in a way that was very odd. It was very matter-of-fact, and like, really, you don't know this? And she's a comedian, she presses buttons and says weird things, but this was a very weird thing delivered in a very weird way. A few weeks later, Joan is now in a coma. Any thoughts?
Coincidence? 24 hours in a day, 24 beers in a case. Coincidence? I get it. I don't know, but this timing is I'm a little suspicious of the timing. But I'll tell you what, after that comment, I was already kind of wondering, but I haven't been able to look at Michelle in the same way ever since. I'll put it that way. And when I go and look at some of the poses that Obama has struck, like at the judo match where he's like got his foot and his arm cocked, like, ooh, that must have hurt. It's just like, whoa. I stopped short of calling her First Lad Michael. more than a couple of occasions. So who knows? If I go into a coma, you'll know that it's true and that they spiked something that I was doing too. Okay.
Yeah, some of those golf poses, the mom jeans, the baseball pitch. All right, I know you did a little crazy, a little wacky. Michelle's arms, like I wouldn't want to arm wrestle her. Okay, fine. But no, it's just kind of interesting. Joan Rivers comes out and says something really out there, and now she's really out there in a coma. Just, Michael Hastings and, you can go down Andrew Breitbart. You come out and say certain things, and then very shortly after, some bad things happen. So I don't know, John. But anyhow, that's why I called him Rapid Fire. We're out of time. I appreciate your time today, as always. Once again, everybody go check out caravantomidnight.com. And, one of these days, man, John, we're going to get this stuff figured out.
All right. In the meantime, I'll leave you with one word, and the word is engage.
I like it. Engage with John on his site, Caravan to Midnight, and engage with us over at thenewamericanmedia.com. Follow us on Twitter at American_media_ and subscribe to youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. For everybody here at the TNAM Radio Network, I appreciate you, I love you, and peace.
Your guide to the truth, thenewamericanmedia.com.